Hey everyone, today I've got a series for you that's not only great but is also complete. This main character possesses the power of infinite regeneration, but that just makes him a punching bag for the overpowered ability users in his class. Luckily, no matter how severe the injury, he can always recover back to normal. Every day, he endures a feeling worse than death, but the thought of his mother at home gives him the motivation to keep studying at this school, because if he can just graduate from the Ability Academy, he'll easily find a good job. Then he can give his family a better life. But all those hopes crumbled on his mother's birthday. For some reason, the pigs who bully him at school found their way to her workplace. Just because of a single disagreement, they turned her into a vegetable. Despair, rage, and agony transformed the once gentle student into a true monster. Let's start the story. 10 years ago, a gate opened in the sky, and countless monsters poured into the world. Over time, humans began to awaken abilities derived from those monsters, leading to the rise of hunters who specialize in hunting them. But our main character wasn't so lucky. Not only could he not rise up because of this, but he was also beaten mercilessly. Even worse, he had absolutely no power to fight back, just letting those bastards use him as a punching bag, even if his blood stained the entire floor. The leader of the bullies is a hunter. His name is Han Tae-soo, and he can create diamonds. Han Tae-soo squinted at the person on the ground and scoffed. "Hey, you good for nothing. Don't fall asleep, you bastard." Our main character's name is Kang Di-an. He's a student at a special academy for ability users, and the reason he's bullied is because of his regeneration ability. It's an S-rank ability. He can recover from any wound, big or small. But Kang Di-an still couldn't take it. That's because the recovery process comes with excruciating pain. Worse yet, the way this damn ability works is that after a while, the outer layer of flesh disappears, leaving behind hideous scars. And Han Tae-soo's crew attacks him because they don't like those scars, mocking Kang Di-an's repulsive appearance. The teachers, the police, no one could do a thing. Because the government gives special treatment to students who awaken S-rank abilities, and the reason Kang Di-an has endured it all until now is for his mother. When he got home, his mother was acting like her usual self. She glanced at the door and said cheerfully, "You're home? Let's eat, son." Kang Di-an obediently sat down at the table, and his mother asked again, "Did you have fun at school?" He flinched slightly, then after a long pause, he nodded and replied, "At school? Yeah, it was a lot of fun." But the stains on Kang Di-an's shirt clearly betrayed his words. Di-an's mother's eyes fell on those stains, a thoughtful look on her face. He avoided her gaze, lowering his head to eat. He thought that if he could just graduate from that school, he could become a hunter. Just a little more effort, and with his ability, Kang Di-an could become a C-rank hunter. The pay might be low, but for him and his mother, it would be more than enough. Looking at his mother's calloused hands, Kang Di-an truly just wanted them to live happily. Or at least, that's what he thought, believing he would have one happy day on his mother's birthday. But disaster struck Kang Di-an once again when those bastards beat his mother so badly she became a vegetable, and they claimed it was just an accident. It happened when Han Tae-soo's crew came to Kang Di-an's mother's restaurant. Seeing her youthful beauty, Han Tae-soo couldn't help but hit on her. "Well, hello, beautiful. What do you think of me? I'm an awakened, you know. I can even make diamonds." Kang Di-an's mother quickly pushed his hand away and said politely, "I'm sorry, sir." But in her haste, she accidentally knocked Tae-soo's phone to the ground. She quickly picked it up, mumbling apologetically. The screen's cracked. "I'm so sorry. I'll pay for it." But before she could finish, Han Tae-soo summoned his diamonds and stabbed Kang Di-an's mother repeatedly. They claimed they tried to hold back their powers, but Kang Di-an didn't believe them. He bit his lip so hard that blood started to trickle from the corner of his mouth, but he didn't stop. A tooth suddenly fell out of his mouth. The thought that this couldn't have been an accident, that those guys would never restrain their powers, sent him into a rage. His body directly unleashed its full abilities. A short time later, in a deserted area, Han Tae-soo's crew had gathered. Soho seemed worried about something, asking hesitantly, "Hey, man, is this really okay? The thing with that lady, what if she dies?" Han Tae-soo, who had just stepped out of a gate, heard this and scoffed contemptuously. He didn't give a damn. He said they were young, the law would protect them, and besides, they were awakened. Even so, Soho still hesitated, mumbling, "Yeah, it's just that." But before he could finish, Han Tae-soo cut him off coldly. "Hey, you think this is the first time I've ever beaten someone up?" As he said this, his eyes were incredibly vicious. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared before them, along with a gloomy voice. "Why did you do it?" Han Tae-soo squinted at the approaching figure and asked indifferently, "Who the hell is that?" But the person just kept pressing, "I asked you, why?" Han Tae-soo grew even more confused. "What the hell are you talking about?" The newcomer was Kang Di-an. He seemed to be bottling up all his rage as he screamed, "Why did you do that to my mom? You goddamn bastards." Hearing this, it finally dawned on Han Tae-soo. He raised an eyebrow and smirked. "Oh, so that bitch was your mom. She looked so young. He showed absolutely no remorse, pushing Di-an's fury to its limit, but there was nothing the boy could do. Han Tae-soo had already run him through with a sharp diamond blade. He sneered contemptuously. Damn, I almost hit on her. Being your dad would have been disgusting. At that moment, Kang Di-an gripped the sharp diamond blade, ignoring the blood that was pouring out endlessly. In an instant, his eyes became resolute. And then, without a moment's hesitation, Kang Di-an pulled it out. Instantly, a scar formed on his chest. Kang Di-an gritted his teeth and cursed, "You son of a bitch." Seeing this, Han Tae-soo wasn't fazed at all. He just sneered, "Wow, so scary." With that, he summoned a whole barrage of similar diamond blades. Han Tae-soo didn't hesitate to command them to attack, and Kang Di-an took the full brunt of it, getting pinned in place, unable to move. Han Tae-soo laughed scornfully and said, "Who the hell do you think you are?" The loser, Kang Di-an, had no way to fight back. He could only endure it in silence. But he still wasn't ready to give up, screaming, "Fuck you, you bastard." Immediately after, he shattered all of Tae-soo's diamond blades, ignoring the countless wounds covering his body. Kang Di-an, defeated, slowly walked towards Han Tae-soo and his group. Seeing this, Han Tae-soo scoffed coldly, "This stubborn bastard. Go ahead, shock him." Seo-ho, standing nearby, immediately nodded. In an instant, his eyes flashed, and a bolt of lightning struck Kang Di-an's body. When the lightning faded, he had collapsed to the ground. His body was covered in wounds, pierced by those diamond shards. The three of them, led by Han Tae-soo, stood there, emotionlessly watching Kang Di-an struggle in agony. After a while, Han Tae-soo finally spoke, "Let's go, guys." But as they passed him, Kang Di-an's arm shot out and grabbed Han Tae-soo's ankle. He gritted his teeth and growled, "Where do you think you're going?" This act enraged Han Tae-soo. He cursed, "You son of a bitch." The moment the words left his mouth, he covered his fist in diamond, and, without hesitation, slammed it into Kang Di-an's battered body. Then Han Tae-soo started punching and cursing simultaneously. "You annoying piece of shit. You should have been protecting your mother." He seemed to pour all of his rage into each punch. Ignoring the blood gushing from Kang Di-an's body, Han Tae-soo grabbed him by the throat, then raised his fist again, preparing to punch. He punched him again while shouting, "Why are you getting angry with me?" In just a moment, Han Tae-soo had knocked out several of Kang Di-an's teeth, but he didn't give up. He opened his mouth and bit down hard on Han Tae-soo's hand. The sight stunned Han Tae-soo. Just then, Soho suddenly called out, "Han Tae-soo." Hearing him, Han Tae-soo grumbled in annoyance, "What the hell? Are you afraid I'm gonna kill him?" Seo-ho shook his head and said worriedly, "No, it's not that. A gate has opened." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo looked up. The other goon also muttered in confusion, "It's a blood gate." He hesitated, then said, "We have to report this." But Han Tae-soo suddenly interjected, "Hold on, I have an idea." Hearing that, Soho asked, bewildered, "What is it?" Han Tae-soo didn't answer, simply pointing at Kang Di-an lying on the ground. And then, he lifted him up and threw him into the blood gate. Kang Di-an immediately roared in defiance, "I will kill you." But he was already being pulled inside. The last thing he saw was the three bastards, led by Han Tae-soo, standing there proudly, without a shred of remorse. In fact, a look of utter contempt flashed in Han Tae-soo's eyes. He snorted coldly and said, "Do your best, see if you can make it out." Kang Di-an was quickly sucked into the gate, his body slamming painfully onto the ground, but his eyes were filled with rage and indignation. He refused to accept being trapped here, refused to let those three bastards walk free. Elsewhere, at a base, a man with glasses stood at a podium, speaking with a worried tone. A blood gate is a phenomenon where a gate turns red and the monsters don't come out. There's still not much information about them. The reason is simple. No one who has ever entered a blood gate has come out alive. Inside a blood gate, monsters swarmed like insects, and Kang Di-an, a person with no offensive abilities at all, had been thrown right into one. And of course, he was attacked by them like a human punching bag. But thanks to his regeneration ability, Kang Di-an managed to survive. However, the pain was fundamentally unbearable. With every regeneration, serrated protrusions grew from his body. The pain felt like he was being ripped apart, like his very heart was being shredded. It was so painful that blood vessels burst in his eyes. But under the relentless assault of the monster horde, his limbs were torn from his body, one by one. Time passed. All that remained were dry bones and fragments of a corpse scattered throughout the blood gate. But according to the latest research, the longer a person stays inside a blood gate, the more likely they are to become a monster themselves. After many years, the scattered, dry bones inside the blood gate were suddenly enveloped by blood-red tendrils. And then, they quickly merged together, forming a complete body. From a dry skeleton, fully formed limbs began to grow, and what's more, human-like flesh started to appear. The gate contained a massive amount of mana, all of which was absorbed by Kang Di-an. But the process was excruciatingly painful, so much so that tears streamed from his eyes. But then he thought of the person waiting for him outside. His mother was waiting for him to avenge her. Instantly, a fire ignited in Kang Di-an's eyes. That bastard Han Tae-soo and his crew were still out there, free, while his mother had been beaten into a vegetative state by them. He remembered the suffering he endured at Tae-soo's hands, and that look of utter contempt in his eyes. He couldn't accept it. He refused to give up. And so, Kang Di-an gritted his teeth and endured all the pain. He didn't care if he became a monster. He had to get his revenge on that bastard Tae-soo and make him pay for everything he did. From that moment on, revenge became Kang Di-an's sole reason to live. Before long, his muscles began to expand. His once frail body transformed into a powerful, muscular physique. Even the monsters inside the Bloodgate became wary of him. They stared in terror at the new monster that had suddenly appeared, one covered in spikes, with a long, imposing horn on its head, standing there defiantly. In an instant, their eyes turned vicious, and they all charged towards Kang Di-an at once. But by now, he no longer feared them. He let out a cold snort and began to summon his mana. All alone, Kang Di-an stood defiantly against the monster horde. A few years later, in the city center, an interview was being broadcast live across the city. The MC enthusiastically announced, "Welcome, everyone, to Mr. Hunter. And our guests today are the famous S-rank hunters." He went on to say the three were known for their very unique individual personalities. "I hear the three of you often volunteer to help people." The three interviewees shared a small smile before one answered, "Ever since we were young, we've always helped those in difficult situations and feel very happy when we can lend a hand. Can you believe it?" These words were coming from Han Tae-soo and his two goons. The MC then continued. "Next question. 5 years ago, were you involved in an accident where you lost control of your ability? Is it true that you injured someone?" The question stunned Han Tae-soo, but he quickly recovered, putting on a pained expression as he said, "That person was the mother of a close friend of mine." He explained, "Back then, we were just students and couldn't control our powers, which is why it happened." Then, Han Tae-soo looked straight into the camera and spoke with a look of pure sincerity. "I desperately want to apologize to my friend, but ever since that day, we haven't seen him. I wish we could have one more chance to see each other again." But just at that moment, the door to the room was suddenly blown off its hinges. It flew straight towards the three of them sitting on the stage. But Han Tae-soo quickly used his ability to block it. He gritted his teeth and muttered, "Damn it, what the hell was that?" At the same time, the audience below began to scream in terror and flee, yelling, "Run, it's a monster." Sure enough, from beyond the door, a spiky foot slowly stepped inside, each step shaking the entire room. The monster had a sharp horn on its head. Han Tae-soo squinted at the creature, his eyes filled with confusion, but in an instant, the monster's figure vanished. The next time it appeared, its sharp claws were right in front of Han Tae-soo's face. That monster was none other than Kang Di-an, who had escaped from the Bloodgate. Before leaving, he had single-handedly faced the hordes of monsters inside and took them all down by himself. Kang Di-an's current power was unbelievably strong, and with his regenerative abilities, you could say he was invincible. Countless monsters had died at his hands, and right now, Di-an was out, and he returned a punch to Han Tae-soo. His two cronies were stunned when they saw this. Just like that, Han Tae-soo was sent flying back 10 meters. Looking at the monster before him, he suddenly thought of something, as if he'd realized who this creature was. After all, in the past, they had thrown that person inside with their own hands, thinking he would never get out. But now, Di-an stood proudly before them, having become a being that struck fear into everyone's hearts. Kang Di-an glared at them. He spoke coldly, "I'm out, you bastards." Han Tae-soo's crony didn't recognize Kang Di-an and muttered in confusion, "What the hell?" But before he could finish, Han Tae-soo got up from the ground, gritting his teeth. "You son of a bitch, kill him." Hearing this, Soho quickly shook off his confusion and began to unleash a blast of lightning. In a flash, Kang Di-an's entire body was engulfed in lightning. But when the light faded, he was still standing there proudly, completely unharmed. Immediately after, Kang Di-an's legs were enveloped in mana, and in a blink, he dashed forward, right before Han Tae-soo's horrified eyes. Fresh blood instantly sprayed everywhere, splashing onto his accomplice's face. Kang Di-an had slammed right into Soho, killing him on the spot. After finishing one of them off, Kang Di-an glared at Han Tae-soo. Seeing this, Han Tae-soo's last crony immediately charged forward to attack, but just as his hands were about to touch Kang Di-an's body, he suddenly turned his head, and his entire body was instantly covered in sharp spikes, preventing the man from getting any closer. Kang Di-an was furious now. He broke out and lunged forward aggressively, landing a straight punch to the guy's face. His speed and power were overwhelming. The man couldn't resist at all. Just like that, Di-an slammed him to the ground as fresh blood gushed out wildly. But Kang Di-an didn't care. He just kept punching. Seeing his crony being taken down, Han Tae-soo hurriedly rushed in, trying to launch a sneak attack from behind. Unfortunately, Kang Di-an seemed to have anticipated his move, and a glint appeared in his eyes for a split second. The moment Han Tae-soo's fist came down, he raised his hand and blocked it. Han Tae-soo's diamond hand was caught just like that. What's more, the diamond was showing signs of cracking, sending him into a panic. But he quickly regained his composure. Han Tae-soo hurriedly summoned diamond swords to attack. Kang Di-an was impaled by them, but he was completely unfazed and stood up proudly. This sight made Han Tae-soo unable to believe his eyes. But that was the reality of Kang Di-an. Ignoring the swords piercing through him, he continued to walk forward step by step. Then, his spike-covered body closed in on Han Tae-soo. Han Tae-soo squinted at Kang Di-an. Realizing the danger, he quickly activated his ability. In an instant, his entire body was covered in diamond, and he began to frantically attack Kang Di-an. Each punch landed on his face like a sledgehammer. But Han Tae-soo had no intention of letting up. Every punch was meant to beat Kang Di-an to death. In just a moment, fresh blood was splattered all over his face. And just like years ago, Kang Di-an simply let him punch, not fighting back. It wasn't until Han Tae-soo threw one final punch that Kang Di-an opened his mouth and bit down hard on his hand. The sight made Han Tae-soo's eyes turn bloodshot. Kang Di-an clamped down on his hand and didn't let go. Then, using both hands, he grabbed Han Tae-soo's head and shoulder, slamming him to the ground. And with a slight exertion of force, Kang Di-an bit right through Han Tae-soo's diamond arm. His face immediately twisted in agony, his other arm trembling uncontrollably from the pain. He mustered his last bit of strength. Summoning sharp spikes from the ground, he impaled Kang Di-an's body. Thinking he had pinned him down, Han Tae-soo quickly tried to flee, but he only made it 2 steps. A spike flew from a distance, piercing straight through his chest. Kang Di-an had already freed himself. He walked slowly in his direction, holding several more spikes in his hand. Feeling the murderous intent drawing near, Han Tae-soo screamed in terror, "Stay away from me." Unfortunately, Kang Di-an paid him no mind and continued to walk slowly forward. Then, he viciously plunged the spikes down, making Han Tae-soo scream in agony. But the screams echoed endlessly in the room, only stopping when the ground was stained red with blood. Di-an had pinned dozens of Han Tae-soo's own spikes into his body, trapping him inside as he trembled non-stop. Han Tae-soo gritted his teeth and asked, "Who are you? Why are you doing this to me?" Di-an didn't answer. His blood-red eyes were just filled with resentment. A second later, he raised his hand and removed the half-mask covering his face. Seeing the complete face behind that mask, Han Tae-soo was instantly stunned. He trembled and muttered, You're... He finally realized the person before him was the one they used to bully, the one they beat to a bloody pulp. And now, Kang Di-an was back, channeling all his hatred into his fists. He furiously punched Han Tae-soo's face, but one punch couldn't release all his rage. Kang Di-an punched down viciously again, returning every single blow that Han Tae-soo had ever landed on him that day. Feeling that was too easy, Kang Di-an grabbed Han Tae-soo's neck, and his fist rose once more. But this time, it came down on Han Tae-soo's throat. This one punch tore his mouth open, and fresh blood gushed out like a waterfall, staining Kang Di-an's entire hand red. Only then did Kang Di-an let go, satisfied. A few minutes ago, this place had been a luxurious hall. Now, corpses were scattered on the ground, some headless, others dismembered into pieces. Fresh blood stained the entire floor, and the culprit stood there proudly. He looked at the tragic scene indifferently, his face showing no emotion, as the place had been reduced to a pile of rubble. Kang Di-an watched the raindrops patter into the water. They formed small puddles that reflected his monstrous form. He couldn't help but sigh. A while later, at the city hospital, Kang Di-an, wearing a cloak, quietly entered the building. Looking at the person lying on the bed, tears fell from his eyes uncontrollably. It was his mother, who was in a vegetative state and had been lying here for the past 5 years, with no one to care for her. Thinking about this, Di-an couldn't take it anymore, and broke down. He sat in the rain, tilted his head back, and screamed. Just when it seemed his life had hit rock bottom, a fateful encounter changed everything. A few days later, in a dense forest, a dungeon gate appeared. Monster corpses were scattered everywhere. One of the hunters looked towards a young woman and said, "Good work, everyone. Especially you, healer. This is your first time venturing this deep into a gate, isn't it?" The female healer heard this and shyly mumbled, "Yes, it is." "Ha, thank you for the compliment." But the words had barely left her mouth when a malicious voice cut in. "No, we should be the ones thanking you." The female healer couldn't help but feel bewildered as the hunters surrounded her, closing in step by step. The leader said with a cold smile, "No one ever knows what might happen inside a gate." She immediately began to tremble in fear, stammering, "No, wait." But they paid her no mind. One of them pinned the female healer down, smirking as he said, Depending on the gate's difficulty, it could take us up to a month to get out of here. In the meantime, we'll need you to take very good care of us." His words terrified the female healer to tears, but just then, something flew through the air and sliced the man's head clean off. The sight made the other men cry out in shock. What? Who the hell was that? The female healer had just escaped a terrible fate. Tears and snot streamed down her face, but seeing Kang Di-an in his monstrous form, she became even more terrified. The other hunters were also panicking, and they quickly yelled, "There's still a monster left? Kill it!" They frantically attacked Kang Di-an with their abilities, but when the smoke and fire cleared, he was completely unharmed. Refusing to accept this, a hunter of the assassin class charged forward, but the moment his sword touched Kang Di-an's body, it shattered into pieces. The man's eyes widened in disbelief, but a moment later, he ran out of time. Kang Di-an attacked. Fresh blood sprayed in all directions as he lopped off the man's head. This scene terrified the remaining two men. They trembled, stammering, "Impossible. How can there be such a powerful monster in this gate?" But no one was there to answer them. Kang Di-an attacked again, and both of their heads were sliced off. In the blink of an eye, he had taken down the entire group of hunters, leaving only the female healer, who sat there trembling. Seeing Kang Di-an's figure approaching step by step, she grew even more terrified and continuously scooted backward. But soon, she saw the human half of his face. The female healer was instantly overcome with emotion, and tears streamed down her face like a waterfall. She just sat there, sobbing uncontrollably. A moment later, she looked up and mumbled, "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." But before she could even finish her sentence, her head was sliced off. The one who did it was none other than Kang Di-an. Why would he kill her? To understand that, we have to go back a few days, to when he was crying in despair in the rain. A voice suddenly spoke from behind him. "How does it feel to finally get your revenge, Kang Di-an?" Kang Di-an frowned slightly and mumbled in confusion. "Who are you?" A woman walked in from outside and stated coldly, "I am the president of the Korean Hunter Association." Kang Di-an didn't know her, so he asked, "How do you know who I am?" Yumin calmly replied, "I manage everyone who enters the gates. You were in there for 5 years, weren't you?" At these words, Kang Di-an's pupils contracted, and then he flew into a rage, lunging at her. In an instant, he was in front of Lee Yumin. Kang Di-an roared furiously, "You bitch!" But before he could strike, Lee Yumin cut him off coldly. "I can save your mother." Sure enough, Kang Di-an's hand froze right in front of her face, but the force of his attack had already destroyed everything around them. He glared at Lee Yumin, asking through gritted teeth, "What did you say?" Lee Yumin explained nonchalantly, "Your mother can be brought out of her current vegetative state by the world's only S-rank healer. The condition is that you have to help me." Kang Di-an stared at her intently and asked, "Why should I trust you?" Yumin let out a soft chuckle and replied faintly, "While you were in the blood gate, your mother was kept alive. Did you really think the hospital did all that on its own?" Kang Di-an hesitated for a moment, then finally asked, "What do you want?" Lee Yumin was silent for a long time, her eyes half closed. After a while, she slowly opened her mouth to speak. "I need an extremely powerful weapon," Lee Yumin continued. "Human weapons are meaningless against hunters. There are even hunters who are more powerful than nuclear weapons, but the monsters that escaped from the gates have killed almost all of them. However, the gates are still there. They're all connected to each other, creating a passageway that bypasses national borders, and countries have taken advantage of this to pit their hunters against each other. Peace has been shattered. America, China, Russia, they are all enemies now. But South Korea has a severe shortage of hunters, so we can't stop the invasion of Japanese hunters. And now, it's time for you, Kang Di-an, to make your appearance. If we use a hunter to fight back against Japan, it will definitely draw a lot of international attention. That's why Yumin needs your help, and in return, she will have your mother saved." Amidst the bloody scene before him, another bloody proposal was made. But thinking of his mother, still lying in the ICU, Kang Di-an decided to become a monster for Lee Yumin to wield. After all, at this point, he was no different from a monster, was he? A few days later, at the Japanese government office, a man sitting at a long table called out coldly, "Minister of Defense." The person below immediately answered, "Yes, sir." The man spoke again slowly, "Why have all of our hunters become unreachable?" This man was the Prime Minister of Japan, Ryusaki Rudo. Hearing this, the Minister of Defense lowered his head and replied respectfully, "My apologies, sir. It's my fault. I will go and find them immediately." This man was not only the Minister of Defense but also Japan's #1 hunter, Zosai Kag. A moment later, Kag stepped outside and gave an order to the person beside him, "Prepare my sword." Hearing this, the woman next to him asked hesitantly, "Sir, are you going alone?" He replied nonchalantly, "Of course." This made the woman even more frantic. She quickly tried to persuade him. "This may be out of line, But the hunters we sent before were all elites. Perhaps you should take a few more people with you. But as soon as she finished speaking, Kang's sharp gaze swept over her. He said coldly, "Do I look like I need to do that?" The woman immediately recoiled in fear and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, sir." And so, shortly after, Kang confidently strode into the dungeon gate. Seeing monster corpses everywhere, he couldn't help but curse under his breath. Those useless bastards. What the hell were they doing? They shouldn't have been able to kill this many. As Kang thought this, he ventured deeper inside. When he reached the end of the path, his eyes suddenly narrowed. He seemed to see something in the distance. There's someone rather interesting here. The person Kang saw was none other than Kang Di-an. He was sitting on a pile of hunter and monster corpses, a truly demonic scene. Upon seeing the bodies of the Japanese hunters, Kang's expression turned ugly. He immediately swung his sword, sending a slash of frosty light toward Kang Di-an. But to Kang's surprise, the unexpected happened. His sword was blocked. Then, Kang Di-an also launched an attack. KG hastily dodged, his eyes filled with rage as he roared, "You dare block my sword? How interesting." The moment he finished speaking, KG slammed a fist into Kang Di-an's chest, then swung his sword down again. The flash from this strike was far more powerful than the last. Unable to block it, Kang Di-an was thrown backward, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. But KG didn't stop there, continuing with a second slash. A crescent-shaped arc of light savagely tore into Kang Di-an's body, sending him flying back dozens of meters. Seeing that he was unharmed, KG snorted coldly. "That exoskeleton of yours is pretty tough, huh?" And then he swung for a third time. This time, the sword light grazed past Kang Di-an, causing KG's eyes to widen in shock. But he quickly composed himself. He scoffed contemptuously. "However, my sword is made of diamond." With that, KG slashed down again, his speed unbelievably fast. Kang Di-an's head was severed by the blow, and he fell to the ground. KG spoke nonchalantly, "What a shame. But if a monster like that could wipe them all out, it's clear the standard of our hunters has really dropped." Behind him, even though Kang Di-an's head had been cut clean off his neck, his eyes were clearly still focused. He suddenly remembered his father. He was always busy with work, always leaving him and his mother behind. But despite all that, his father was a very kind man. Kang Di-an loved him very much. Every day, he and his mother would wait for his father to come home from work. It seemed like their happiness would last forever. But an accident took him away from them. Kang Di-an was still very young at the time, but he witnessed his father die for his sake with his own eyes. After that incident, his mother's job situation gradually worsened. The two of them fell deep into debt. His mother's once soft hands became calloused. Kang Di-an, still a small child, saw this and asked worriedly, "Mom, are you okay?" Even though she was exhausted, she would shake her head and reassure him, "I'm fine, son." But whenever night fell, Kang Di-an couldn't sleep, because his mother would always cry secretly after he fell asleep. Kang Di-an thought his mother was crying because of him, that someone like him didn't deserve to live, so he hurt himself with a box cutter. Seeing this, his mother was so horrified she dropped what she was holding. She stammered in a panic, "My son." But Kang Di-an turned to look at her and said with difficulty, "Mom, I think I've awakened." Just as he said, strange things began to sprout from the cut on his arm, and the wound healed itself. Watching the hunter news on TV, Kang Di-an hugged his mother and cried, "Mom, I want to become a hunter you can be proud of." And just like that, mother and son held each other and wept. It seemed as though they could overcome any hardship, but reality dealt them a crushing blow. Their life was filled with immense difficulties. Before they could even taste the fruits of their labor, Kang Di-an's mother fell into a vegetative state, and he became a monster that people feared. But Lee Yu-min told Kang Di-an this: "The world's balance of power is over. Many countries around the world have been conquered. South Korea's main enemy now is Japan." She begged him to become their monster and eliminate Japan's strongest hunter. But at this moment, Kang Di-an had just been decapitated by KG. Snapping out of his past, Kang Di-an's eyes quickly regained their focus, but KG was unaware of this. He snorted contemptuously. "What a waste of time. I need to hurry." He wanted to be the first to reach South Korea, but the moment he finished speaking, something strange happened, making KG scream in panic. "What the hell is that?" He saw a powerful surge of mana enveloping Kang Di-an's body, and then it began to regenerate. He cried out in disbelief. "He's regenerating? But I already cut off his head." While KG was still in shock, Kang Di-an opened his mouth and bit down. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, causing KG to let out a piercing scream. But he quickly recovered, hastily raising his sword to strike down. A crescent-shaped arc of light appeared as powerful mana enveloped KG's sword. He roared furiously, "This bastard!" As he spoke, a sigil appeared beneath his feet. The crescent-shaped sigil enveloped both KG and the fallen Kang Di-an. In an instant, KG's figure vanished. But if you looked closely, You could see numerous after-images of him appearing around the sigil. And then, a barrage of slashes struck Kang Di-an's body. KG was using his ultimate skill, Reaper. Countless clones of him appeared all around, and 12 blades simultaneously slashed across Kang Di-an. KG's figure seemed to dance through the air, sword flashes flying with his every move. They shot straight towards the exit of the dungeon gate. Outside the gate was a peaceful mountain forest. But that peace was quickly shattered by KG's sword beams. They were so powerful, it looked like they could tear an entire mountain apart. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, after unleashing that attack, KG sheathed his sword. He walked slowly, one of his legs bleeding from where it had been bitten. He sighed and muttered, "I can't believe he almost bit my leg. Clean off. I need to recover." But before he could finish, a sharp spike pierced through his other leg. His expression instantly turned ugly, and a cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Behind him, a pair of skeletal hands suddenly shot up, a severed part of Kang Di-an's body that was somehow still able to attack. This horrifying sight made KG tremble in fear as he stammered, You're a monster." Immediately after, he hurriedly attacked Kang Di-an again. In another scene, outside the dungeon gate in Japan, Ryusaki Ruto was waiting with a large group of people. They were all elite hunters, reinforcements from the Ministry of Defense. A woman standing next to Ryusaki Ruto asked hesitantly, "Prime Minister, do we really need this many people?" Ruto replied in a grave voice, "It's been 3 days since he went in. We have to check what's happened. He's not just the Minister of Defense, he's also Japan's #1 hunter." But just as he finished speaking, a head flew out from inside the gate. At the same time, another pair of legs slowly stepped out. It was Kang Di-an, returned in his monster form. Ruto saw this and was instantly horrified, but before he could even utter a word, something slashed across his neck. The one who attacked was, of course, Kang Di-an. Elsewhere, on the top floor of the Korean Hunter Association, a woman looked worriedly at Lee Yu-min and asked, "Do you think he can really do it?" Japan? But before she could finish, Lee Yu-min cut her off coldly. "We'll just have to wait and see if he can defeat Japan's strongest hunter and its prime minister." At that same moment, back at the dungeon, Prime Minister Ruto was completely unharmed, holding Kang Di-an's head down with one hand. Immediately after, he threw a punch. The powerful fist slammed down furiously, and Kang Di-an's body was quickly brought down by Ruto. With a loud crash, mana erupted from the surroundings, nearly shattering the ground, and Kang Di-an's eyes had once again lost their focus. Don't ask why Ruto is so strong. He wasn't just the Prime Minister of Japan, he was also Japan's #0 hunter. If an SSS rank hunter like him gets provoked, don't ask why the sea is salty. Kang Di-an was a prime example, taken down by him with a single punch. 3 years ago, most of the monsters from regular gates had been conquered, and the world's fear shifted to the power of the hunters. As a result, several countries tried to eliminate them, but all failed completely. Their abilities were unbelievably powerful. Hunters all over the world realized they could either make a deal with their nation and coexist peacefully, or they could invade the country by force. Either way, they achieved power on their own terms. And the country targeted by hunters was Japan. The reason was simple. Its prime minister was an SSS rank hunter. Ryusaki Ruto had been ruthless even before his awakening. After the hunter system was established, he attempted to take over South Korea. However, that ambition was stopped by a monster, and that monster was Kang Di-an. After being struck down by Ruto, he quickly regenerated back to his normal form. Seeing this, the hunters from the Ministry of Defense cried out in shock, "It's regenerating again." But just as quickly, the hunters offered, "Prime Minister, leave this to us," and charged forward together. One of them, not fearing death, rushed in front of Kang Di-an and said arrogantly, "A monster that can regenerate? So what? What if I cut your head off?" As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his axe down, but Kang Di-an's speed was faster. Before the axe could even touch him, the man's head was already severed from his neck. The man didn't even have time to realize why he had died, as fresh blood sprayed everywhere. The thick, metallic smell of it was sickening. Seeing the bloody scene, the Prime Minister's men recoiled in horror. Kang Di-an's methods were brutal, merciless, and decisive, but the hunters in the back, who hadn't learned their lesson, muttered in discontent, "That bastard, how dare he do that to one of our hunters?" But just as they were about to move forward, Ryusaki Ruto gave a cold command. "From now on, anyone who takes another step forward, I will kill them all." Hearing that, the hunters shrank back, all of them retreating in unison. Kang Di-an, unafraid, stood his ground. Ruto, however, stared at him, his eyes filled with hatred. Many years ago, on a day when Japan was blanketed in heavy snow, in a corner, a little boy sat huddled in the snow, his head completely covered by the white powder. A man saw this and walked over, saying, "Hey little one, what are you doing out here?" This man was a young Ruto, and the boy was Zosai Kag. Zosai Kag looked up at Ryusaki Ruto and asked, "Who are you?" Ryusaki Ruto just smiled without answering. He then sat down beside Zosai Kag. Ryusaki Ruto draped his long coat over the boy and then offered, "It's cold, come with me." And just like that, on that snowy day, a lonely life was saved by Ryusaki Ruto. On the way back, Ryusaki Ruto asked, "What's your name, kid?" The boy was young and still very cautious. He hesitated for a long time before replying that his name was Zosai Kag, but now, the boy that Ruto had raised was nothing but a severed head. How could he not be enraged? And the culprit was none other than Kang Di-an. So, Ruto channeled all his fury into his fists and unleashed a frenzied attack on him. Kang Di-an couldn't react in time and was sent flying backward, but Ruto didn't stop. He continued his assault, another fist slamming down. A massive hole had been punched through Kang Di-an's chest, and his head had been crushed, one of his eyes popping out. He summoned his mana, creating a great fire that incinerated Kang Di-an's corpse. When the flames died down, not even bone fragments remained on the ground. The hunters in the back were stunned by the sight, but they quickly voiced their admiration. "Amazing. That's our prime minister for you." In front, Ruto continued to stare at Kang Di-an's ashes, his eyes still filled with hatred. But when he glanced at Zosai Kag's head, his expression softened. But just then, threads of mana suddenly appeared from behind, weaving around the scattered ashes on the ground. In the blink of an eye, the remains formed a complete body. Seeing this, Ruto's face turned ugly. He remembered the past, a day when he and Zosai Kag were quelling a rebellion. After they had eliminated the enemy hunters, they finally had a moment to talk. With his back to Zosai Kag, Ruto said guiltily, "I'm sorry for dragging you into this mess." Zosai Kag gently shook his head and replied, "It's all right." Hearing this, Ruto didn't say much more. He said in a low voice, "At any rate, they haven't conquered Japan yet, and now, we still have to target Korea and China. You might even lose your life next time. If you're afraid, just say the word, and I'll let you stop." Zosai Kag looked at his still bleeding arm, then spoke with determination. "You were the one who guided me when I was about to die on the streets. My life is as good as yours." At this, he suddenly paused and walked towards Ruto. After a long hesitation, Zosai Kag spoke cautiously, "But, there is one thing I want. Can I have it when all of this is over? Can I call you father?" Hearing this, Ruto couldn't help but sigh. Why be so formal? This made Zosai Kag panic, and the darkness before him seemed to grow even deeper. But a moment later, Ruto spoke again. "Even without you asking, you've always been my son." These words left Zosai Kag stunned. At that same moment, the sun began to rise, just like the light in Zosai Kag's own life. In that instant, it shone brightly. But today, all of that had been shattered. Remembering the past and thinking of Zosai Kag's tragic state now, Ruto could no longer hold back and unleashed his full power, causing lava to erupt from the ground. Seeing this, the woman behind him was startled and quickly activated her ice skill. She then looked into the distance, murmuring worriedly, "Ruto." But Ruto seemed to have gone berserk, paying attention to nothing but Kang Di-an before him. At the same time, a volcano erupted. Lava poured out from within like a waterfall, enveloping Ryusaki Ruto. He raised his hand and spoke in a cold voice, "Melt and disappear, down to your very cells." As soon as he finished speaking, the scorching lava surged madly towards Kang Di-an. The wave of lava grew larger and larger, clearly intending to melt him completely. And sure enough, in an instant, Kang Di-an was being corroded by the lava. But just before he was completely consumed, his legs suddenly pushed off, and his upper body leaped out of the molten rock. Then, Kang Di-an swung his claws, preparing to strike Ryusaki Ruto. But at that very moment, another torrent of molten lava erupted upwards. Kang Di-an's upper half was once again incinerated by the lava. The hunters in the distance panicked when they saw this. The entire city was now engulfed by the volcanic eruption, which turned the sky a fiery red, as if it had been dyed with blood. A while later, the smoke and fire from the lava began to dissipate. Ryusaki Ruto stood there defiantly, a large pit of magma having appeared at his feet. Kang Di-an was trapped inside, struggling relentlessly to escape, but it seemed hopeless. Just then, Ruto suddenly called out, "Haname," and a girl immediately appeared. He ordered in a cold voice, "Freeze that pit." Permanently. Haname quickly accepted the order and began to summon her ice-based ability. Without a moment's hesitation, she struck. A torrent of frost erupted frantically. The magma pit below was quickly engulfed in ice. The mingling of magma and ice caused Kang Di-an, who was trapped below, to struggle on the brink of death. He tried to escape the magma, but it was useless. Meanwhile, in South Korea, at the headquarters of the Kane Guild, inside the guild's laboratory, a girl was trying to heal someone. It was Han Tae-soo. Somehow, that bastard was still alive. A few threads of mana still remained in his body, so with the girl's dedicated healing, Han Tae-soo slowly opened his eyes. Back in Japan, the sky was still stained red by the magma. Inside the dungeon gate, Ryusaki Ruto gave a cold command. Leave a few men behind. The rest of you are to return. The hunters immediately nodded in acknowledgement. Yes, sir. But just then, from the depths of the magma pit, a hand slowly emerged. It then thrust straight through the layer of solidifying ice. Magma like this also exists inside the blood gate. Kang Di-an had experienced it tens of thousands of times, so he was able to rise again. In the blink of an eye, his body regenerated once more. He walked defiantly through the scorching magma, as if it were just cool water to him. But the pain was never easy to bear. Kang Di-an was simply forcing himself to endure it. The magma flow couldn't completely melt his body. In an instant, a nearly complete body had regenerated. As he neared the edge of the magma, Kang Di-an broke into a run. Ignoring the searing heat, he grit his teeth through the pain and charged furiously toward the rim of the pit. Hearing the commotion, Haname immediately spun around, her eyes filled with panic. Kang Di-an had already escaped from the magma pit. Sensing how bad the situation was, Ryusaki Ruto hurriedly told Haname, "Take the hunters and get out of here." Hearing this, Haname's expression turned grim. She glanced back at Kang Di-an's terrifying face. Haname said nothing more, as Ruto rushed forward to confront Kang Di-an. Watching from behind, a sense of unease washed over her. She clenched her fists to her chest, whispering his name, Ryusaki Ruto, as if in prayer. We now flash back to an earlier time. At the Prime Minister's residence, Haname entered Ryusaki Ruto's room. Seeing him bandaging his wounds, she asked hesitantly, "Are you pushing yourself too hard? Mana regeneration isn't all-powerful." Hearing this, Ruto remained silent. After a long moment, he muttered gravely, "Of the 4 great hunter nations, America, China, Russia, and Japan, our country is the weakest." He said that if they couldn't invade South Korea, there would be no way for them to survive. Haname walked over to his side and urged worriedly, "But many of our own hunters will die." However, Ruto's voice was firm. "I just have to keep fighting, even if my body is destroyed." Just like now, he was trying to destroy the monster that could threaten Japan's future. He transformed into magma once again and roared, "I will protect my country." As soon as he spoke, Ruto slammed his fist into the ground. Magma spread out rapidly, forcing Kang Di-an to fall back, but Ruto charged forward like a madman. Boom! Another powerful fist crashed down. Kang Di-an's body took the full force of the blow, but he quickly dodged away, the wound already regenerating. With his first strike failing, Ruto clenched his fist and threw another punch. A brilliant flame erupted and shot forward. Kang Di-an tried to dodge, but he wasn't fast enough, and his body was once again engulfed in magma. This time, however, Ruto didn't let up, pressing his attack. His magma-infused fists rained down furiously upon the mountain, setting off a continuous series of deafening explosions. At the foot of the mountain, Haname relayed Ruto's orders to the men. "The Prime Minister has ordered a retreat. I will remain here, so all of you must leave." As she spoke, her expression was grave. But at that moment, the hunters suddenly dropped to their knees, shouting in unison, "We have all received immense help from the Prime Minister. We will protect him to the very end, Madam Prime Minister." Meanwhile, atop the volcano, the fierce battle continued to rage. Ruto charged forward, his body a mass of scorching magma, and in an instant, it exploded again. But now, Ruto's hands were trembling uncontrollably. He sat powerlessly in the magma. Above, Haname and her group had returned, silently watching the fight. It seemed as if Ruto had secured his victory. But then, a figure suddenly emerged from the magma and immediately launched an attack at him. Watching this unfold from above, the expressions on Haname and the others darkened. But just then, a sudden change occurred. Kang Di-an surged out from the magma once again, his eyes filled with a terrifying malevolence. Before everyone's horrified eyes, he shot upwards. A panicked Haname tried to attack with her ice ability, but Kang Di-an paid no mind to being encased in ice and dragged her down with him. Seeing this, Ruto went berserk, and the hunters above quickly leaped down to intervene. Haname was terrified in Kang Di-an's grasp, but he didn't care, furiously dragging her right in front of Ruto. In that moment, for some unknown reason, Ryusaki Ruto reverted from his magma form and attacked Kang Di-an, pulling Haname from his grasp. Despite losing his hostage, Kang Di-an didn't seem the least bit flustered. Seizing the opportunity, he swung his arm like a blade, and Ryusaki Ruto's head flew from his shoulders. The sight stunned the hunters charging from behind, causing them to freeze in place. Kang Di-an began to regenerate his body once more as the ice around him melted away. A moment later, the hunters snapped out of their shock and began to swarm him. Under their ferocious assault, Kang Di-an was hacked to pieces before he could fully regenerate. A part of his head was sent flying. The hunters rushed to Haname's side, asking worriedly, "Madam Prime Minister, are you all right?" But Haname was lost in despair, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her gaze was fixed on Ryusaki Ruto's body in the distance. His head lay severed from his neck, frozen solid. The other hunters saw it too and tried to offer comfort. "The Prime Minister!" But before they could finish, a sound from behind made them all turn around. Threads of mana were materializing in the air, and then, in just an instant, Kang Di-an was back to his normal self. At this sight, tears began to stream down Haname's face. Kang Di-an at that moment was no different from a demon crawling out of hell. She closed her eyes in despair, tears still streaming down her face. When she opened them again, the hazy figure of Ruto appeared. Lying beside Han, Ruto smiled and said, "Are you awake?" Han thought the previous scene was just a nightmare. She rushed into Ruto's arms and cried, which confused him. She quickly explained, "I just had a nightmare." Hearing this, Ryusaki Ruto comforted her, "It's okay, I'm here, so don't worry." With that, the two started kissing. But when Han opened her eyes again, the person in front of her had turned to ice. It turned out to be just Han's illusion before Kang Di-an attacked. In the blink of an eye, Kang Di-an had taken down all the Japanese hunters. While he wasn't paying attention, Han seemed to make a move behind him. She quietly activated her skill, turning her arm into ice. Then, she touched her own body, and her entire being froze solid. She ran to where Ryusaki Ruto's head lay. The two of them then sank into the lava. Kang Di-an, on the other hand, didn't seem to care. He walked step by step towards the dungeon gate. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the K-Chang Guild in Korea, after waking up, Han Tae-soo went to the monostone warehouse. The vice guild master of K-Chang, Yu, followed anxiously behind, pleading, "Han Tae-soo, you can't push yourself like this. You're the only one with any mana left. That's why we have you. And your friends." Before she could finish, Han Tae-soo cut her off coldly. "I know they have almost no mana left." Hearing this, Lee Ye-ju couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Then why?" Biting his lip fiercely, Han Tae-soo muttered in a low voice, "The little rat I used to bully back in school escaped from the blood gate and killed me." Remembering Kang Di-an's face from that day, Han Tae-soo grew even more furious, clenching his fists and muttering through gritted teeth, "That damn spineless bastard." With that, he flung off his outer coat. This scene horrified Lee Ye-ju, who was standing behind him. She couldn't believe her eyes. Strange characters appeared on his back. He had become an S-rank hunter. He pursed his lips and mumbled, "I've broken the seal." At that moment, the K-Chang headquarters was emitting a powerful wave of mana. Lee Ye-ju, standing in the center of its influence, couldn't help but bend over, gasping for breath. Just then, Han Tae-soo spoke coldly. "The seal has been broken. Assemble all members of the K-Chang Guild immediately." So, a few hours later, all the members of the K-Chang Guild had been summoned to the main hall. A representative bowed to Han Tae-soo and said, "Ready to receive your orders, Guildmaster." But many people couldn't stop whispering among themselves, "I thought he was dead." It seems the vice guildmaster revived him. He ignored the murmuring crowd. The manager of the tactical team, Hang Kyung-chan, spoke up. "That monster has moved to the gate. After the pursuit by the Japanese, I assume you've summoned us to." Before he could finish, Han Tae-soo cut him off coldly, "To execute that bastard." Hearing this, Kyung-chan declared fiercely, "That's our master. All right, we, the tactical team of the K-Chang Guild, swear on our lives to support you with all our might." But before he could finish his sentence, Han Tae-soo sliced his head clean off. This sudden bloody scene left the crowd behind him unable to react in time, but it was already done. Kyung-chan's head was now in his hand. Han Tae-soo spoke coldly. This man was originally the vice president of the Korean Hunter Association. Because he merged the association 3 years ago, K-Kang was able to dominate, and Kyung-chan's ability is S-rank remote control. As he finished speaking, Han Tae-soo raised his hand, and when he swung it down, another head flew from its neck. Fresh blood instantly sprayed everywhere, splattering across the faces of the hunters behind him. Lee Ye-ju couldn't bear to watch the gory scene. Earlier, she had asked worriedly, "Is it absolutely necessary to remove your seal?" This was because Han Tae-soo's ability was cursed, but he believed this was the best way. Even now, he had no regrets about removing the seal on his ability. As he killed, he asked, "Do you all want to support me with everything you have?" But not a single person answered. They were all rendered speechless by Han Tae-soo's actions. And in a fleeting moment, all 1,528 members of the K-Chang Guild present that day were instantly massacred by Han Tae-soo on the spot. The guild's main hall turned into a mass grave, with bodies piled into mountains and fresh blood dyeing the entire floor red. And Han Tae-soo had absorbed all the mana from those more than 1,500 people. Lee Ye-ju could do nothing but watch helplessly. When he was finished, she asked in a low voice, "Are you okay?" Han Tae-soo stood atop the corpses and said in a cold voice, "No. That bastard killed the SSS rank Prime Minister. Even after absorbing all the mana from this crowd, I still feel it's not enough." Thinking about how Kang Di-an had become a monster, Han Tae-soo was determined to destroy him at any cost. With that thought, He slowly opened his mouth. Shall I fly over? Meanwhile, at the entrance to the dungeon, Lee Yu-min knew Kang Di-an would be back soon and was already waiting there. Soon after, he really did step out from the gate. Afterwards, Lee Yu-min began the recovery process. Her S-rank healing skill would restore every damaged cell by using her own mana. Lee Yu-min said it would take quite some time, but she could definitely save Kang Di-an's mother. Hearing this, Kang Di-an waited quietly outside. Several hours later, Lee Yu-min finally came out, weakly mumbling, "As long as I do this every day, your mother will wake up by next week." As soon as she finished speaking, she staggered and fell. The person beside her rushed to her side, shouting, "President!" Kang Di-an stood there silently for a long moment before asking with suspicion, "This process consumes a huge amount of your mana? Why would you go to such lengths?" Lee Yu-min crawled step by step towards Kang Di-an, took his hand, and said with extreme sincerity, "Because you have to live." As she spoke, she pressed Kang Di-an's hand against her chest, and a flash of light erupted in an instant. Kang Di-an felt this and quickly pulled his hand back. Lee Yu-min wasn't flustered and said calmly, "But it's just as I thought. Your bestialization process is still continuing, even when you're not inside a blood gate." Kang Di-an was stunned to hear this, but Lee Yu-min paid him no mind and continued speaking. Ever since the first gate appeared 50 years ago, all the remaining gates have been gradually turning into blood gates. Ever since Kang Di-an escaped, a rapid transformation began, leading to all gates in the world turning into blood gates. The mana flowing within them is giving you strength. At this point, Lee Yu-min's expression turned somewhat grave. After a long moment, she continued to speak about the flow of mana. If a regular gate is a hole, then a blood gate is a conduit. It connects to another place, and something is approaching through it, and that thing is looking for you, Kang Di-an. Meanwhile, those gates are opening. The monsters inside are pouring out relentlessly. They are beginning to attack the city. Ordinary people couldn't fight them. They could only run. Terrified screams echoed endlessly through the city. More and more monsters poured out from those gates. Meanwhile, at the South Korean government office, the building was protected by a barrier. The South Korean president furiously demanded, "What the hell is going on? Why isn't the Kang Guild answering us?" The person before him hesitated for a moment before revealing the tragedy. "Because the entire guild has been wiped out." "Sir," the president cried out in shock. "What? Why?" The man slowly shook his head and replied, "We don't know either. What do we do now? Should we call for international aid?" The president immediately refused. "No, that would be admitting defeat. For now, declare martial law." Hearing this, the man hesitated, about to say that the military would be useless, but before he could finish, the president cut him off coldly. "Then what else are we supposed to do? The Kang Guild isn't all we have. South Korea has many other hunter guilds, like the Dosa Guild, ranked second in the country. They have A-rank hunters like Gon Ujin and Hayang, or there's the third-ranked guild in Korea, Vinanin. They have A-rank hunters too, and besides them, there's the Eong Hak Guild, ranked fourth. When the country fell into crisis, the hunters did indeed show up, but there were too many monsters, and all of them were defeated." Kang Di-an looked down from above, and seeing this scene, he couldn't help but ask doubtfully, "Is all of this because of me?" Yu-min didn't answer, instead asking back, "What are you going to do now?" Down in the city, an ordinary citizen tripped and fell amidst the chaos, and a monster immediately noticed her. But just in the nick of time, Kang Di-an appeared, killing the giant monster in a single blow. He bit his lip fiercely, remembering the past, a grimace twisting half of his face. When Kang Di-an died in the blood gate, the mana inside tried to turn him into a monster. He could barely withstand the pain and received a new, unusual ability. Or at least, that's what Kang Di-an thought. It turned out that wasn't the case at all. The mana just wouldn't let him die. Not until he had completely become a monster. The more he thought about it, the more Kang Di-an's face contorted in agony. He thought he could finally live in peace after his mother was cured, but reality slapped him with a painful blow. It was all because of these damn monsters. So, Kang Di-an unleashed all his anger on the monsters before him. He tore them to pieces and roared in fury, "Why can't you just leave me alone?" Elsewhere, at a blood gate, an image of Kang Di-an was being watched. In a space filled with tentacles and damp air, a gaunt figure quietly approached. He sat on a throne made from the corpse of a giant spider, his voice a low, gloomy rumble. "Is that him? The one who created the rift?" Going back a few minutes, after a moment of thought, Kang Di-an had instructed Lee Yu-min, "I'll take care of all the monsters. Just stay somewhere safe and treat my mother." Lee Yu-min nodded slightly and replied, "Got it. I'll treat her at the association's shelter, so you fight with everything you've got." Back in the present, South Korea's hunters had been almost completely wiped out. Only Kang Di-an was left fighting them, but he felt that these monsters looked familiar, like they were the same type he'd fought in the blood gate for all those years. There's a limit to how many monsters can come out of the gate, as all activity stops after a certain period. Kang Di-an, had already killed all the monsters in the vicinity. If he kept this up, he could live happily with his mother. But while Kang Di-an was fighting the monsters, something flew right through his head, and fresh blood instantly gushed out. Kang Di-an turned his head and saw a group of soldiers approaching. Someone spoke up hesitantly. "It's not hurting anyone. It's only killing monsters, sir." But the commander irrationally gave the order, "It doesn't matter. It caused this tragedy. Restrain it quickly and wait for the hunter support team to arrive." Hearing this, Kang Di-an frowned and looked back to see a line of armored vehicles firing at him. Flames and smoke instantly erupted in the air. Kang Di-an couldn't react in time and was engulfed by the explosive smoke. The pain was unbearable. He really wanted to scream, "Stop!" But Kang Di-an could only see dozens of armored vehicles relentlessly firing at him. Step by step, Kang Di-an was forced back toward the blood gate. His body was now covered in wounds, both large and small. Before, Li Yumin had warned him to be careful. The blood gate was open, and it would be very difficult to stop the transformation into a monster. But at that moment, Kang Di-an threw all caution to the wind, slaughtering the entire group of soldiers who had aimed their guns at him. But then he suddenly saw something lying in the distance. It reminded him of a painful past, back when Kang Di-an was still human and being beaten half to death by Han Tae-soo and his cronies. The other students in the class were too afraid of Han Tae-soo's group to care, but one boy did notice. Every time he was beaten, that blonde-haired friend always looked upset. He wanted to intervene but couldn't, so he could only find opportunities to curse them out. "Damn it, Han Tae-soo and those other bastards. Why do they only pick on you?" Di-an replied nonchalantly. "It's because I'm an easy target. They'll start beating you too. At school, just pretend you don't know me." These words made the blonde boy angry. He grabbed Di-an by his shirt and demanded, "Hey, Kang Di-an, are you crazy or something?" Kang Di-an didn't answer, only avoiding his friend's gaze. Seeing this, his friend felt helpless. He resentfully let go of Kang Di-an and muttered in frustration, "Fine, screw it." And that's how his childhood friend left him. Or at least, that's what he thought. The truth was, that friend had been gathering evidence all along. The proof was in his right eye. After gathering enough evidence, he sent it all to the police, the school board, and various other places. The very next day, Kang Di-an's friend was beaten and hospitalized. He was found with his right eye missing. After hearing the news, Kang Di-an rushed over, and seeing his friend's condition, he could only sit by the bed and cry. His friend sighed and said, "I'm sorry, Kang Di-an. I probably won't be able to go to school with you anymore." Kang Di-an trembled with rage, gritting his teeth and muttering, "Han Tae-soo. That bastard did this, didn't he? I'll definitely." But before he could finish, his friend stopped him. "Don't do it." Kang Di-an sobbed as he asked, "You've lost your ability. What are you going to do now?" Even though his friend was in bad shape, he still managed a cheerful smile. "Don't worry, it's nothing. I'll join the army." But at that moment, Kang Di-an saw that familiar face again, but it was just a head. His body trembled reflexively. Finally, he clutched his friend's head and let out a heart-wrenching scream. At the same time, the monsters resumed their attack on Kang Di-an. His eyes gradually turned vicious. It was these monsters. It was all their fault. So he channeled all his rage into his arms and began to relentlessly slaughter the monsters. At that moment, Kang Di-an was like a moth to a flame, relentlessly charging into the horde of monsters, slaughtering them in a frenzy. Meanwhile, at the main government office, footage of Kang Di-an at the site of the chaos was being streamed. The man beside the president couldn't help but tremble and mutter, "Mr. President, what in the world is that thing?" The president replied in a low voice, "That's the monster who killed Guildmaster Kang and the former Prime Minister of Japan. It's the one causing this whole disaster. After our investigation, we concluded that we have to kill it for the gates to return to normal." But he didn't understand why Kang Di-an was killing other monsters. The man before him shook his head, looking just as confused. "We don't know. More importantly, there are other monsters that we can't defeat. Furthermore, the blood gate has begun to expand. We can't delay any longer." Hearing this, the president frowned and asked, "What about our hunters?" The aide replied hesitantly, "They've all been wiped out, sir." Hearing this, the president's head throbbed. He thought for a long moment with a grim expression, before finally speaking, "Contact the foreign hunter bureaus." Immediately, in faraway countries, the news spread. A man holding a long staff spoke coolly. "The monster that caused the deaths of the Korean and Japanese hunters. Is it because of the blood gate? This is going to be interesting." With that, he slammed his staff on the ground, and a powerful aura of mana radiated from him. This was China's #1 hunter, the SSS rank hunter, Ling Guang. Elsewhere, a woman also received the footage of Kang Di-an. She gritted her teeth and muttered, "What the hell? This is damn ridiculous." This woman was the SSS rank hunter, the #1 of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Rusana. At the same time, in America, a man dressed in a priest's robes sighed and said, "I can hear the screams of suffering souls. I must go." Hearing this, the man behind him cried out in alarm, "What? If you leave, what about the war in Russia?" But before he could finish, the other man cut him off coldly. "The war is over." As soon as the words left his mouth, he unfurled his massive wings and soared into the sky. The face of the man left behind instantly soured, but he knew it was impossible to change his mind. Once that man made a decision, he couldn't be stopped. That priest was an SSS rank hunter, America's top hunter, Stephen Lucas. In the midst of his battle with the monsters, Kang Di-an couldn't help but think about his past. 5 long years fighting monsters inside the Bloodgate, in a harsh environment where he couldn't eat, drink, or even sleep. He had fought relentlessly just to survive. Kang Di-an had felt completely exhausted, sometimes losing his sanity as the transformation tried to take over his body. But every time that happened, he would remember 2 faces. One was his mother, lying in the ICU, and the other was the bastard responsible for it. Han Tae-soo was still out there, living freely, and Kang Di-an just couldn't accept that. That was how he stopped the transformation, by turning that energy into pure hatred. But now, that hatred seemed to be weakening. Was it because he had finally gotten his revenge? But just as quickly, Kang Di-an denied it. "No, the mana in the Bloodgate is getting stronger. The closer I get, the harder it is to control." It was because of this that he had killed innocent people, including his own childhood friend. After realizing this, Kang Di-an decided to avoid the gates and just wipe out all the monsters instead. As he killed the monsters, he wondered if this could ever atone for what he'd done. But just then, a blinding flash of light shot towards him, causing his body to melt. With his one remaining eye lying on the ground, he saw a figure appear in the distance, a figure with massive wings on its back, and that person seemed to notice his lone eye on the ground. That year, the gates had appeared during the Christmas season. Inside a church, a priest stood at the pulpit. He spoke earnestly. "And today is Christmas, a day for which our hearts are full of gratitude." However, before he could finish the service, countless gates materialized in midair. There were no hunters. Piercing screams echoed through the church. The priest hurriedly shouted, "Everyone, get out of here! Use the main entrance! Hurry!" But he alone, despite the pleas of his congregation, remained right where he was. It wasn't long before a blinding light suddenly erupted from the priest's body. When the light faded, a pair of white wings had appeared. The light from his body had killed all the monsters inside the church. He had awakened his powers on that bloody Christmas Eve, an awakening in America's largest church, where 100,000 of the faithful had gathered. There were 138 people with minor injuries, but not a single fatality. Although a large number of monsters had appeared, under the protection of the newly awakened priest, they were all kept safe. He was the world's first awakened SSS rank hunter, and his appearance was like that of a hero who had saved the entire nation. Ever since he was a child, Kang Di-an had deeply admired him. That hero was none other than Lucas. He just didn't understand why Lucas was here, in this country. While he was still lost in confusion, Lucas attacked again. Kang Di-an's eye was crushed by the blow, but Lucas quickly realized something. He sighed and muttered, "I see. This monster won't die easily." Soon after, Kang Di-an's body was whole again, and he realized Lucas was here for him. He relentlessly attacked Di-an. The moment his body finished regenerating, Lucas's blinding light would strike once more. Although he tried to defend himself, he was still sent flying dozens of meters. Kang Di-an suddenly thought of something. Lucas was an awakened who could communicate without a translator through mana. Realizing this, just before Lucas could strike again, he desperately shouted, "I'm not a monster." Hearing this, Lucas paused, asking skeptically, "You're human?" Kang Di-an nodded slightly and replied, "Please, sir, hear me out." And so, under the blood-red sky, Kang Di-an laid bare his tragic life. After listening to the whole story, Lucas nodded in understanding. So that's what happened. With that, he suddenly pulled the boy into a hug to comfort him. "You must have suffered terribly. What's your name?" Kang Di-an was a little surprised, but quickly answered, "Kang Di-an." Lucas murmured his name for a moment, then suddenly asked, "Do you know that I fight to save people?" Before Kang Di-an could even answer, Lucas continued, "But today, I killed many people, so that I don't forget them, and to atone for my sins, I have carved the name of every single one onto my body." As he spoke, Lucas pulled open his robes, revealing a body covered in countless words. From his neck to his feet, his skin was covered in names. The sight left Kang Di-an speechless. Lucas then continued calmly, "Kang Di-an, I can help you and kill all of these monsters. But," he added, "during that time, this catastrophe will spread globally, and countless more people will die." As he said this, Lucas pointed to his own neck, and slowly began to carve letters onto his skin. He muttered guiltily, "Forgive me, I'm truly sorry." Seeing the newly carved name, Kang Di-an's eyes narrowed, because on it was his very own name. While he was still confused, a blinding light flared up again, and Lucas reached out to touch Kang Di-an's head. Instantly, his head became distorted. Lucas spoke slowly. I must kill you. At the same time, at the Hunter Association headquarters, Lee Yu-min was healing Kang Di-an's mother while monitoring the battle. Her secretary watched quietly from outside, his face filled with worry. Because Lee Yu-min was overexerting herself, blood began to trickle from her eyes, nose, and mouth. Elsewhere, far from Korea, Vladimir Rusana was furious, cursing, "Damn it, Lucas, that bastard. Did he abandon everyone on the battlefield to go to Korea?" The more she cursed, the angrier she got, muttering through gritted teeth. Is he always holding back like this? Just then, the person on the other side of the screen reported, "We've lost 80% of our forces. It's becoming difficult to hold the front line. Ma'am, at this rate, the American hunters will." Before the person could finish, Rusana cut him off with another curse. "Damn it. If only we could capture that monster." Just then, someone suddenly entered from outside. Inside the Grand Palace, the newcomer walked with immense confidence. It was Han Tae-soo and Lee Ye-ju. Han Tae-soo looked at Rusana, raised an eyebrow, and said with a smirk, "That monster. I'll capture it for you." The monster they were talking about was located in the north. It was the first triple S rank monster to ever appear. When it emerged, everyone was terrified, but there was ultimately nothing they could do. Despite their resistance, Russia's northern base was completely destroyed. The Russian government at the time, still ignorant about the gates and monsters, mobilized its entire military but still failed to suppress it. And finally, half of Russia's nuclear arsenal was deployed. However, amidst the brilliant nuclear inferno, the monster didn't die. Because it was a non-mana attack and was contaminated with radiation, northern Russia became a land of monsters. Eventually, to rebuild their economy, they declared war on the United States. And now, Han Tae-soo was offering to eliminate it by himself. Hearing this, Vladimir Rusana reacted as if she'd heard a joke. She scoffed contemptuously. An S-rank hunter from Korea? How absurd. Vladimir Rusana glared at Han Tae-soo and spoke coldly. "You came here without permission? And you're boasting that a single S-rank hunter can defeat the northern monster? Are you looking for death?" Her words were filled with killing intent. In an instant, an intense pressure bore down, causing the Great Hall to show signs of collapsing. Unable to withstand the pressure, Han Tae-soo and Lee Ye-ju fell to their knees. Han Tae-soo endured the pain, muttering through pressed lips, "You're here because of that monster. I heard you were defeated by the United States." Hearing this, Vladimir Rusana cursed angrily, "You bastard." But Han Tae-soo spoke with unwavering determination. "I can destroy it. Could someone like you even survive that amount of radiation?" Rusana snorted, then raised her hand. An image of a radiation-contaminated part of the earth appeared before Han Tae-soo. Unafraid, Han Tae-soo calmly nodded. Of course. His action startled Vladimir Rusana. She frowned and asked, "Are you planning to use a shield? With radiation levels that high, that would be useless." But before she could finish, Vladimir Rusana's eyes widened, her face filled with horror. Because Han Tae-soo was now enveloped in threads of mana, she trembled and stammered, "You, what in the world are you?" But she quickly composed herself, muttering through pressed lips, "No, it doesn't matter. If you defeat the northern monster, I'll give you 30%. Ah, no, half of the mana stones from that monster." "Whatever," Han Tae-soo replied calmly, as if he didn't care. With that, he stood up and started to walk out. Before leaving, he added one last sentence, "I will destroy it and return soon." Meanwhile, back in Korea, Kang Di-an was struck down by Lucas's frenzied light. Yet, Lucas stood before him, apologizing ceaselessly. "I am truly sorry. I have to kill you." In an instant, Kang Di-an's entire body was obliterated by that light. Amidst the divine, radiant light, Lucas remained kneeling. After some time, the light dissipated, breaking into smaller rays. Within it, a single eyeball was sent flying. It landed in a hidden corner behind a nearby wall. Thanks to it, Kang Di-an was still able to regenerate a complete body. But he couldn't face Lucas. He didn't know what to do. Before he could even think of a plan, Lucas appeared in front of Kang Di-an once again. The difference was, this time he didn't attack. He just hugged him tightly and murmured in an incredibly sincere tone, "Forgive me. Hit me if you want." But the light radiating from him caused Kang Di-an immense pain. Lucas didn't let go, holding him tightly in his arms, constantly murmuring, "If it will make you feel better." In a matter of moments, Kang Di-an's body melted away again, leaving only a single eye. Lucas spoke slowly, "But your regeneration ability isn't infinite." As soon as he finished speaking, Kang Di-an's body regenerated once more. He hugged him again and murmured, "Forgive me. I will continue to kill you without causing pain." Kang Di-an really wanted to curse him out. His ability was to create armor from his own bones. He could cover his entire body in a layer of bone, but it came with excruciating pain. And in this moment, Lucas was forcing Kang Di-an to die, regenerate, and then die again. This damned loop was causing him unbearable agony. Every passing second brought horrific pain, But Kang Di-an had endured it all for the sake of getting revenge on Han Tae-soo and the hope of a happy life with his mother. However, the shock of death at Lucas's hands. Even with only one eye left, Kang Di-an easily surpassed all his previous pain thresholds, allowing his regeneration to repeat countless times instantly. This helped Kang Di-an break past the limits he had during his time at the Ability User Academy. During a break, Kang Di-an took the chance to watch a video. Han Tae-soo curiously walked over and asked, "Hey, what are you watching?" Startled, he replied, "Oh, this? It's a video of Lucas, a hunter I really respect." On the phone was indeed a video of Lucas saving people. Han Tae-soo nodded in understanding. "Ah, I see. His ability is pretty amazing. Haha, by the way, what's your ability?" "Me? I can make armor out of my bones." Kang Di-an answered without hesitation, then held up his wrist, showing the bone spikes there. But just then, Han Tae-soo suddenly punched him in the face. He sneered in disgust. How gross. And that was the source of all of Kang Di-an's suffering from then on. He didn't understand why he had to endure such pain. What exactly had he done wrong? Why did he have to be bullied by Han Tae-soo and his damn crew, beaten half to death by them with no one caring, pushed by them into dangerous bloodgates for years on end? But that bastard Han Tae-soo felt no guilt whatsoever, even after Kang Di-an had been turned into a monster. All this pain was like a film, replaying endlessly in Kang Di-an's mind, reminding him that all this suffering was something he had actually endured. The agony of being tormented as he turned into a monster, the pain of being trapped in lava, the pain of being killed countless times, and even the pain of taking his childhood friend's life with his own hands. They also reminded Di-an of the heartbreaking reality of this rotten society. He couldn't accept it. What had he done wrong? And yet, the part of his humanity that remained whispered to him, "It's time to stop. Lucas was right. If we keep living, countless innocent people will die. But even if you die, your mother gets to live. That's enough." But the Kang Di-an of this moment had completely snapped. He let out a harsh laugh. To hell with that. Immediately after, thousands of mana threads shot out from his eyes, and in an instant, they surged outward, connecting to the countless bloodgates within the city. Lucas, on the other side, didn't recognize the imminent danger. However, even if he had, he couldn't have stopped Di-an's beastly transformation. All of South Korea was now completely submerged in the terrifying dark mana radiating from their battlefield. Fresh blood dripped steadily to the ground, and it was his own blood. At the same time, a drone appeared in the sky, its camera broadcasting the entire battle scene to the rest of the world. A young priest stood quietly in a crowd, praying silently. Meanwhile, in South Korea, the Hunter Association headquarters had collapsed. Inside the shelter, Lee Yu-min was still trying to heal Kang Di-an's mother. Her secretary saw her and rushed to intervene. "Chairman, if you keep pushing yourself like this." But Lee Yu-min didn't care, ignoring the blood pouring from her eyes, nose, and ears as she continued to pour mana into Kang Di-an's mother. The sight of her blood-covered face was truly bizarre. Before long, Lee Yu-min collapsed. Her secretary rushed over, shouting, "Chairman, are you all right?" Trembling on the floor, Lee Yu-min whispered, "The healing is done." And sure enough, on the bed, the color returned to Kang Di-an's mother's face. Shortly after, she slowly opened her eyes. She had really woken up. Elsewhere, in Russia, Han Tae-soo was indeed heading north. He muttered to himself, "Kang Di-an, that bastard, is he really fighting Lucas?" Thinking about Di-an's true strength, he couldn't help but curse. Damn it. But Han Tae-soo's problem right now wasn't Kang Di-an. It was the monster standing right in front of him. He gritted his teeth and mumbled, "This is insane." Back in South Korea, the city was now a pile of rubble. Thanks to the mana pouring from the bloodgates, Kang Di-an had reverted to his monster form, but it was clear he was much stronger than before. Lucas, though injured, wasn't in terrible shape. He wiped blood from his face, sighing as he mumbled, "This is some truly ominous mana." With that said, he rushed forward and pulled Kang Di-an into an embrace, his voice filled with sincerity. How much it must hurt, and just like before, the light erupted from Lucas's body, relentlessly destroying Kang Di-an's form. This time, however, Kang Di-an didn't melt. He raised his hand, ready to attack. His sharp claws slashed out, sending blood flying, but Lucas's voice never stopped. Sometimes, just having someone to listen is a great help. Those words made Diane's movement freeze in midair. Lucas didn't seem to notice, and continued, "Therefore, I will be the ears that listen to it all." The moment he finished speaking, he drove his fist into Kang Di-an's face, his hand piercing straight through his head. Lucas seemed to be searching for something, but he quickly retreated, because one of his arms had been sliced clean off, by Diane, of course, and a piece of that severed arm was now lodged inside his head. Just when it seemed like nothing would happen, the arm suddenly exploded, blowing his head to bits. Witnessing this, Lucas couldn't help but sigh. "Ever since I gained these abilities, I have constantly heard voices." Kang Di-an crumpled to the ground, But Lucas's voice still echoed in his head. The cries of those in agony, suffering from disease and disaster, the heart-wrenching screams of those pleading for salvation. At the same time, the drone was capturing everything Lucas said. The entire world was listening. But fortunately, he continued, I also hear other sounds. Sounds of hope, of support, and of happiness. The echoes of gratitude. The prayers of those who have been saved. As he spoke, he spread his arms, and in an instant, they grew into two massive hands that shot towards Kang Di-an. His eyes contracted, but it was too late. He was already trapped firmly in those palms. He mumbled relentlessly, I can hear it even now. Then, Lucas clenched his fists. Blood instantly burst forth, and the massive body was crushed, leaving only a single arm behind. But Lucas didn't seem to care. He remained kneeling there, hands clasped, ignoring the blood that streamed from his fingers. But before long, mana threads wrapped around his hand, and Kang Di-an returned. Without hesitation, Lucas squeezed again, and once more, blood and flesh gushed out. But Di-an was left with one eye, and then he returned again, launching a frenzied attack on Lucas. With a boom, his claws struck the ground right where Lucas had dodged away. Standing not far away, Kang Di-an glared at him, then charged forward without hesitation. This time, however, Lucas held up a hand to block him. He spoke slowly. Is this really the only way? As he said this, his remaining hand drew the sign of the cross on Kang Di-an's chest. For a second, he was stunned. Then, as if controlled, Kang Di-an began stabbing his own body, drawing blood. The blood sprayed onto Lucas's face, and before his eyes, thousands upon thousands of names, the names of those he had killed, suddenly appeared. At that exact moment, Di-an gave a horrifying smile, and his face morphed into a perfect copy of Lucas's. It was as if the two of them had merged into one. Prayers suddenly poured into Kang Di-an's subconscious, every single word, a sharp thorn driving into his mind, causing him excruciating pain. When he opened his eyes again, a bizarre scene unfolded before him. Kang Di-an had no idea what he was even doing, but a fresh wave of pain made him shudder. Kang Di-an thought he should be terrified of Lucas, but in that moment, all he felt was warmth. Then, countless bloody images flashed through his mind, horrific, tragic scenes that he couldn't understand. But just as quickly, the images changed, shifting from terrifying sights to feelings of respect and belief. The faith of believers. Countless images of the cross swirled in Kang Di-an's mind, frustrating him to the point that he cursed out loud. Lucas, you goddamn bastard. Lucas remained kneeling there, as if praying for Kang Di-an's soul. At the same time, the faithful across America, those who shared his beliefs, were also praying in silence. Elsewhere, in northern Russia, Han Tae-soo was fighting a monster. He cursed through gritted teeth. It's annoyingly strong. But even this Arctic monster was nothing compared to that American bastard. If he couldn't kill this thing, he'd never be able to kill him. At that thought, Tae-soo's eyes hardened with resolve. He swore he would kill Kang Di-an with his own hands. On the streets of South Korea, Kang Di-an was now a pool of blood on the ground. But very quickly, the mana from the blood gate once again supplied him with power. Before long, Kang Di-an had returned to his monstrous form. He charged at Lucas once more. The two fought furiously, causing the surrounding buildings to begin to collapse. And just like that, Kang Di-an was buried in the rubble. It was at that moment that a figure slowly appeared before him, the very person Kang Di-an had longed to see again for so many years. Seeing the scene before her, his mother couldn't help but call out tremblingly, "My son." Seeing his mother, a flash of joy appeared in Kang Di-an's eyes, but it was quickly followed by tears of happiness streaming down his face. He called out in a trembling voice, "Mom." In that instant, however, Kang Di-an's mother's face turned pale. She couldn't believe her eyes. That cry of mom filled her with absolute terror. In the past, Kang Di-an's mother had been terrified and worried when Kang Di-an tried to harm himself, but after that, he had awakened, and horrifying spikes had sprouted from his wrists. She had been so scared then, but a video of hunters with special abilities aired on TV. In the end, mother and son had embraced and cried together, and Kang Di-an had even promised to become a hunter and live a life of luxury with her. But in this moment, what stood before Kang Di-an's mother was a terrifying monster. She finally couldn't take it anymore and turned to run, ignoring Kang Di-an's hopeless screams from behind. Mom, it's me. It's your son, Kang Di-an." He quickly grabbed her wrist, but in her fear, Diane's mother fell to the ground. He stammered in a panic, "Mom, is it because of these things?" Hearing the sound behind her, Diane's mother looked back, her face now filled with nothing but terror, completely devoid of the warmth a mother should have for her child. Kang Di-an desperately explained, "No, these things aren't me." But Kang Di-an's mother wouldn't listen. In a fit of rage, she screamed, "Get away!" Then she slapped him straight across the face, the force so great that it further mangled his already injured cheek, causing bits of flesh and fresh blood to fall off. At the same time, Lucas slowly approached. He had watched the entire thing, realizing he'd been tricked. He spoke angrily. "Was the story you told about your mother all just a lie?" In a fit of rage, Lucas attacked once more. But this time, Di-an didn't hold back. He swung his claws, slicing off the man's head. The head flew 10 meters away, but then a bizarre transformation occurred, as a long tentacle emerged from its mouth. As Kang Di-an was desperately embracing his mother, it shot towards him and went straight into Kang Di-an's mouth. The air froze in an instant. There were no more screams, no more sobs, only Kang Di-an's horrifying laughter. His eyes had changed, as if something strange had taken over his body. It was a demoness. She liked strong men and hated weak ones, just like the men she had killed, because they couldn't stand her childishness. And so, the demoness had given all her love to Lucas the moment she saw him. That's why she'd had the disgusting idea of wanting to become one with Lucas. Sometime after awakening her abilities, she had gone to Lucas's church, then entered his body directly, gaining the new skill to merge with others. With it, she always got what she wanted, and now, it had allowed her to enter the body of Kang Di-an, a man even stronger than Lucas. This was just too perfect for someone like the demoness. But would it be that easy? As she delved into Kang Di-an's subconscious, she saw all of his memories from when he was a child. One time, when Kang Di-an woke up in the middle of the night, the person lying next to him was gone. He stumbled out to look for her, only to see his mother quietly carrying a bag and leaving. He asked doubtfully, "Mom, where are you going?" But she ran straight ahead without answering, to the sound of Di-an's wails. She just kept running, and he kept chasing after her, crying the whole time. But he didn't get far before he tripped and fell flat on his face. He watched her retreating back in despair, crying out, "Mom." Perhaps a mother's feelings still lingered. Di-an's mother finally turned to look back. But a moment later, she started running again. The relentless downpour made everything feel hopeless. Kang Di-an walked home, step by step, constantly calling for his mother. However, no one answered him. His only reply was the dark night and the sound of the falling rain. Kang Di-an couldn't hold it in anymore, and fell to his knees, wailing in the rain. His figure was a tragic sight, as he whispered in a small voice, "Don't leave me. I'm your son. Please, come back to me. Why did you leave me? Was it because Dad died because of me? Or is it because my ability is filthy? Or because I'm a monster?" Kang Di-an didn't understand. He simply didn't know the reason. From his constant falling, another cut appeared on his hand. But soon, those sharp spikes grew out again. Seeing them, Kang Di-an couldn't help but cry out. His cries were utterly heartbreaking. He tilted his head back, and his tears fell, mixing with the rain, becoming indistinguishable. But a moment later, Kang Di-an gritted his teeth, a shard of glass appearing in his hand. Without hesitation, he slashed at the spikes, causing fresh blood to pour out like rain. A moment later, through the rain, the sound Kang Di-an had been waiting for echoed. "Kang Di-an, Kang Di-an, Kang Di-an." It was his mother. She was back. Seeing her, Kang Di-an burst into tears again. "Mom, I was wrong. Mom, I'm sorry." As if afraid she would leave him again, he kept cutting at the spikes on his hand, sobbing as he spoke. "But this thing, it won't come off. It just keeps growing. What should I do? Mom, what do I do? I'm sorry." Seeing her son's state, Kang Di-an's mother couldn't help but cover her mouth and cry loudly. She threw her arms around him, saying in a trembling voice, "I'm sorry, my son. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault." After the rain, the sky brightened once more, but how long could this light last? The demoness, Lee Yeju, having seen all of Kang Di-an's memories, couldn't help but sneer. "Haha, this guy is a real crazy bastard." But the demoness thought she had him under her spell, that she could control this body freely. So, she took control of Kang Di-an's body, stood up, and started flailing around like a maniac, laughing uncontrollably. But it wasn't long before she felt an excruciating pain. Kang Di-an was constantly fighting back. The demoness, inside his subconscious, was hit with a terrible agony. It was as if his exoskeleton was piercing her from the inside. His muscles were twisting and his guts were being torn apart. But damn it, they just kept regenerating. The pain was so unbearable that the demoness couldn't take it and began to scream. After a while, she collapsed onto the ground, defeated, and mumbled, "He goes through this. Every single second." Her figure now looked utterly tragic and hopeless. Just then, a grim voice echoed, "Get the hell out of my body, you bitch." The demoness inside Kang Di-an was instantly terrified, and after a brief struggle, she gave in, and so, she crawled out of his body. Seeing the demoness, Kang Di-an furiously walked towards her. Terrified, she begged, "Wait, just a moment." Too bad Kang Di-an wasn't listening. He killed her on the spot with a single blow. He had finally regained his consciousness and his body, but right now, he looked like a demon that had just crawled out of hell. And at the same time, Lucas's body, far in the distance, began to undergo a strange transformation. A sudden light burst forth, enveloping both his severed head and his torso. In the past, when the church was attacked, facing monsters he had never seen before, Lucas had remained perfectly calm and awakened his powers. But now, fragments of memories flashed through his mind. The mournful screams, the tragic lives, and all the filth present in this world. Finally, Lucas couldn't hold back his tears anymore, and they began to fall, as a blinding light continuously enveloped him. Although something unexpected had happened later, his body had been possessed by that demoness, and he could only act on his own will. Half the time, his original purpose had never changed. He remained devoted to his faith as God granted him the wings of an angel. Perhaps God had given him a mission, and he had gladly accepted it. With God's help, even after being decapitated, Lucas could be resurrected. His body quickly returned to normal. This sight startled Kang Di-an. At that moment, a halo of light appeared behind Stephen Lucas, and thin threads suddenly sprouted from his head. Kang Di-an couldn't help but mutter in confusion. What the hell is this? While he was bewildered, Lucas walked over and embraced his body, causing him to yell in anger, "Get the fuck away from me!" But Lucas just stood there, holding Kang Di-an tightly, causing his rotten outer layer to fall off piece by piece. He thought, but why would you let such a poor child endure such horrific trials? In just a moment, Kang Di-an had returned to his human form. But at the same time, a disgusting tentacle suddenly appeared. A giant monster burst up from the ground, wanting to devour them both. But suddenly, two beams of light appeared in the sky, forming a holy cross that struck down, splitting the monster in two and obliterating it. Kang Di-an was completely baffled by this strange sight, but he didn't have much time to think. Soon after, he was back to normal. The sky was now filled with giant monsters. Lucas carried Kang Di-an and flew through the gates. Soon, they landed on an intact building. Then, Stephen Lucas took off into the sky, standing in God's light. Kang Di-an stared blankly at the scene, unsure how to react. Just then, iron armor suddenly materialized around Stephen Lucas, and another pair of wings appeared along with it. In the blink of an eye, Lucas was mounted on a winged horse in the sky, holding a great spear in his hand. The light emanating from it illuminated a corner of the heavens. When the light faded, an army had appeared in the sky. Immediately after, they began to slaughter the monsters. This army was like one sent from heaven to save the earth. Kang Di-an still couldn't accept the fact that he had just turned back into a human. He just sat there, motionless. At the same time, a strange phenomenon occurred across the entire planet. A light of faith spread to everyone on Earth. Whether they were believers in God or scumbags like Tae-soo, the light granted them additional strength. At that very moment, Han Tae-soo, who was losing a fight against a monster, suddenly felt it, his eyes filled with astonishment. But for some, this light brought only pain. And that person was Lucas's son. In the past, at the church gate, Lucas was held back by a small hand. His son was crying and begging him, "Father, please don't go to pray today. Please, Father." Seeing the boy's tears, Lucas felt a bit reluctant, but he hugged the little boy and advised, "Parents will all have to leave their children eventually. And when that time comes, the child must learn to stand on their own." Hearing this, Lucas's son cried even harder, his face a mess of tears and snot. Now, Lucas stood in the sky, looking just like an angel. He slowly opened his mouth. "Kang Di-an, a heavy fate awaits you." He said that Kang Di-an would experience even more pain and suffering than he does now. A terrible and cruel truth. As Lucas spoke, pieces of his armor began to fall away. He seemed to know exactly who the enemy Kang Di-an was about to face was. But fate is fate, and Lucas couldn't say it out loud. He could only offer this sincere advice. But please, do not lose your faith, not until the very end. As he finished, a tear rolled down his cheek. He had cried so much up until now. Lucas had also experienced great pain when he was very young. His wife had been gravely ill. Back then, Lucas had cried endlessly by her sickbed. But his wife, despite her own pain, gently took his hand to comfort him. She wore a sincere smile until the very moment she passed away. And now, Lucas could finally leave everything behind to be with her. It's just that his only son was left heartbroken, crying his eyes out. But what could be done? Lucas turned into a beam of light and merged with the vast sky. His son could only watch helplessly as his father left without a single word of goodbye. Elsewhere, in northern Russia, Han Tae-soo had just finished his battle with a monster. He collapsed onto the ground, exhausted. Then, Han Tae-soo suddenly burst out laughing. He threw his head back and laughed loudly, a bitter laugh. "Ha ha, damn it all, ha!" His laughter echoed throughout the area. Behind Tae-soo, the monster lay dead, pierced by the light, with only a few of its diamond spikes remaining. He knew full well that he wasn't the one who had truly finished it off. But it was no use. Back when Han Tae-soo was just a child, he had asked his brother, "Big brother, do you really have to do this?" Han Tae-soo's brother calmly replied, "Listen, the stronger you get, Han Tae-soo, the bigger our guild will become. It's all for father." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo hesitated, wanting to say more, but before he could finish, his brother coldly cut him off and walked away. Before Han Tae-soo could react, an iron chain was wrapped around his neck. His brother held the other end of the chain, his face filled with killing intent as he spoke. "I told you to do it, you worthless mutt." Han Tae-soo quickly shook his head and replied, "I don't want to." But every time he resisted, his brother would strike him, causing him immense pain. Left with no other choice, Han Tae-soo had to give in. He trembled and mumbled, "I'm begging you, please, don't die." And then, Han Tae-soo summoned his ability and attacked the people who were chained to the wall. Snapping out of the memory, he sat there silently, completely still. Meanwhile, at Vladimir Rusana's palace on the oasis, she had witnessed the entire process of Han Tae-soo killing the monster. She couldn't help but remark, "I know Lucas helped, but to defeat that monster, that's truly impressive." Before long, Han Tae-soo returned from the north. Vladimir Rusana narrowed her eyes at him and, after a long moment, spoke, "As promised, I will share half of the mana stones dropped by the Arctic monster." But before she could finish, Han Tae-soo cut her off coldly. "I took them all." For a moment, Vladimir Rusana was stunned and cried out, "What?" Han Tae-soo replied indifferently, "I've already absorbed all the mana stones." Vladimir Rusana glared at him angrily, demanding, "Why would you do that? Your body won't be able to handle it." The moment she finished speaking, Han Tae-soo lunged at her in a flash, but Rusana wasn't frightened in the slightest. With a wave of her hand, she commanded coldly, "Answer me, why did you do it?" An invisible pressure created by Rusana sent Han Tae-soo flying backward. He struggled to get up, mumbling in a trembling voice, "There is someone I truly want to kill." Little by little, Han Tae-soo crawled in front of Rusana. His expression suddenly changed, his voice filled with killing intent as he spoke, "So why don't you just die?" With that, he tried to attack her again. But Vladimir Rusana had anticipated this. With a slight movement of her hand, another invisible pressure slammed down on his back, and fresh blood instantly gushed out. She spoke coldly, "These mana stones could have increased the power of all Russian hunters tenfold, and you devoured them all just for that reason?" As she spoke, the hand resting on her throne clenched into a fist, a clear sign of her immense anger. Right after, Rusana slowly descended to face Tae-soo. She scoffed coldly and said, "Do you really have no intention of fighting for Russia?" But the moment she finished speaking, dozens of Han Tae-soo's clones suddenly appeared, ready to attack. However, Rusana was one step ahead, crushing the life out of each one as they approached. The thick stench of fresh blood instantly filled the air. Standing not far away, Lee Yeju had blood splatter across her face, causing her to shudder. Seeing this, Han Tae-soo created a protective barrier around Yeju. At the same time, Rusana spoke up, "All right, if that's how it is." But before she could finish, Han Tae-soo lunged at her again in a flash. Rusana remained perfectly calm on her throne and said coldly, "Die." With a wave of her hand, countless objects flew towards Lee Yeju, but before they could explode, Han Tae-soo jumped in front of her, taking the full impact. At that moment, countless faces appeared in his mind, all the people he had killed, whose abilities he now possessed. Kyung-chan was a prime example. Now, countless clones of Han Tae-soo appeared again, but each one had a different, distorted face. These figures were like crazed puppets, rushing forward like moths to a flame. The number of people Han Tae-soo had killed was truly uncountable, and in this moment, all of them were attacking Rusana at once. Yet, Rusana sat there, completely unafraid. She waited until they were close, then snapped her fingers. Han Tae-soo's clones exploded like fireworks in the sky. The booming sounds echoed, lighting up the sky above the oasis. In just a few moments, the grand hall was reduced to rubble. Han Tae-soo knelt on the ground, looking up at Vladimir Rusana high above. Unwilling to give up, he tried to attack again, but an invisible force pulled him into a spatial rift, as if sending him back to the past. Back to when he was just a little boy. He once confessed to Lee Yeju at a park, "I killed someone again today." Back then, Han Tae-soo knew that killing was wrong. Hearing this, Lee Yeju grew very worried about him and rushed to find him. But at that moment, Han Tae-soo was like a madman, screaming over and over, "I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to kill them." From the moment he decided to kill that first person, he had stepped into the abyss. Whether Han Tae-soo could accept it or not, the number of people he had killed had reached the tens, then hundreds of thousands, and even into the millions. Questions of why he had to kill them always echoed in his mind, but with his now brutal nature, killing one more person meant nothing to him. And now, Han Tae-soo was trying to kill Vladimir Rusana to take what he wanted. In another part of the story, after hearing Lucas's final words, Kang Di-an sat there, stunned. After a long while, he lowered his head. Teardrops began to fall onto the cold ground, but if you looked closely, you'd see they were tears of joy. Kang Di-an felt that Lucas's words were just nonsense. What terrible, what cruel. His body was back, so everything was resolved, right? He could go see his mother and live happily with her. But who knows if he destroyed the earth in a past life, because how could he be so unlucky? Just as he saw a glimmer of hope, some random piece of trash appeared out of nowhere and crushed his body with a single stomp. Looking at the bloody mess at his feet, the guy stepped away in disgust. He frowned in annoyance and muttered, "What the hell is this?" Back at Rusana's palace, she was slightly taken aback by the sheer power of Tae-soo's attack. In that instant, she suddenly remembered the past. Several years ago, in the Russian president's office, a man lay sprawled on the floor, mumbling tragically, "A monster that can withstand a nuclear explosion. The world is finished." Just then, a young woman walked in to report, "Mr. President, we can kill it with mana." This woman was Rusana. At the time, she was merely Russia's Minister of Defense. Upon hearing her words, the president sat up, shook his head, and replied, "It's too late. We've already launched every remaining nuclear warhead on the planet." This made Vladimir Rusana's eyes widen in shock, but the president, as if he had gone mad, screamed, "Let's all die together." Rusana looked outside and saw the nuclear missiles flying frantically through the sky. She cursed in anger, "God damn it." She then quickly flew outside. Vladimir Rusana tried to use her powers to stop the detonating core. In the blink of an eye, a giant hand snatched the entire core that had just taken flight. Boom! Smoke and fire quickly erupted in the sky. The president could only watch helplessly, unsure of what to feel. A moment later, Vladimir Rusana returned from outside. Without any hesitation, she attacked the president. He cowered on the ground in fear, trembling and begging, "Help! Help me!" Rusana seemed to be moved by compassion, her hands trembling slightly. She mumbled in a shaky voice, "I'm sorry, Mr. President." Two streams of tears also appeared on Rusana's face. She pressed her lips together and mumbled, "No, Father, this isn't wrong." If you looked closely, on the president's desk was a family photo, which included both the president and Rusana. But reality was cruel. Rusana truly struck down the president, and fresh blood splattered everywhere, blurring the family photo. After it was done, Rusana turned to face the wall where the president's portrait hung. She stood there silently, as if observing a moment of silence for her father. Just then, world news suddenly broke. A broadcast announced, "Russia's indiscriminate nuclear attacks have been confirmed. In the name of world peace, the United States will immediately move to annihilate Russia." Hearing this, Vladimir Rusana cried out in a panic, "No, this is Russian Minister of Defense, Rusana. The president is dead. We surrender." However, the American representative provocatively gave her the middle finger. He snorted coldly and said, "Like hell you will." And that's how the war between the U.S. and Russia has been waged to this day. Just then, a child's tender voice called out, "Mommy," from outside. Rusana immediately turned her head, chiding them worriedly. "It's dangerous. Mommy told you not to come here." But the two little ones had already run up, hugging her legs and crying loudly. "Mommy," Rusana sighed helplessly. "Misha, Elisa." She started to say something, but looking at her two children, she could only bend down, hug them tightly, and cry. "Mommy promises she'll protect you." That's right. Vladimir Rusana had promised. Her daughter and son couldn't be without their mother. Therefore, now facing Tae-soo's attack, she wasn't the least bit afraid. She roared ferociously, "You think I'd lose to a bastard like you?" But as soon as the words left her mouth, Vladimir Rusana's eyes shot wide open, then gradually lost their focus. Her body had been pierced by dozens of sharp spikes. She died on the spot. And of course, she had broken her promise to her two children, unable even to say a final goodbye. Elsewhere, in the Russian-awakened residential area, this was where Vladimir Rusana's son and daughter were staying. They looked worriedly at their nanny and asked, "The hunters who went to America, they'll be safe, right?" The nanny nodded slightly. "Of course, they'll win soon and come back." But as soon as she finished speaking, the two children spoke up with determination. "We're awakened too. We can fight." Hearing this, the nanny sighed. "Misha, Elisa, it's all right. The queen will protect." But before she could finish, her body exploded, splattering blood across the two children's faces. In an instant, the place was reduced to rubble. At the same time, threads of mana appeared in the air. Elisa was terrified by the scene, standing there completely frozen. The one responsible for this tragedy was none other than Han Tae-soo. He looked just like the boogeyman, making Elisa tremble with fear. Yet, Han Tae-soo just stood there grimly, watching the little girl. After a long moment, he turned and walked away. The mana threads vanished as well. Elisa, not understanding anything, simply stared at his retreating back. Perhaps in that instant, Han Tae-soo suddenly thought of Kang Di-an's blood-soaked face from the day they reunited, and felt a pang of compassion. Is that why he simply left? Before leaving, Han Tae-soo waved his hand and said, "Forget it." Meanwhile, in South Korea, Kang Di-an, who had been stomped to death by some freak who appeared out of nowhere, was now regenerating thanks to his mana. He crawled away with all his might. The other guy squinted, watching his strange crawling. Kang Di-an mumbled for his mother as he moved, but the lunatic wouldn't let him go, stomping him flat once more. However, Kang Di-an's regenerative ability was incredibly strong, and he kept forming a new body, and the madman just kept killing him the moment he regained a sliver of consciousness. And so, a vicious cycle formed in that place. The madman just kept on killing, not stopping for a second amidst the gory mess of flesh and blood. His cries for mom were nipped in the bud by the man each time. After a while, he couldn't stand it anymore and spoke. "This rhythm is pretty strange. It sounds like a lament. But why is a grown man like you crying for his mommy?" These words made Kang Di-an furious. He roared back, "You son of a bitch. What, are you born from a rock like Sun Wukong? Don't you have a goddamn mother?" But as soon as he said it, the madman lifted his foot and kicked Kang Di-an into the blood gate. This time, Kang Di-an wasn't afraid and went straight through. At the Hunter Association, Kang Di-an's mother was lying in a bed. She seemed to be having a nightmare as she woke up for the first time in years. The person she saw was Lee Yu-min. She asked uncertainly, "Where am I?" Lee Yu-min calmly replied, "This is the Hunter Association." She told them they had to evacuate immediately because the headquarters had nearly collapsed. The three of them then moved toward the secondary shelter. However, on the way, something collapsed, separating the three of them. Lee Yu-min glanced back, her brow furrowed. It was Kang Di-an, pinned beneath the rubble. And, of course, his mother saw it too. When she saw Kang Di-an's blood-soaked face, she finally jolted awake, her forehead covered in a cold sweat. Seeing this, Lee Yu-min said, "Good morning. We're in the secondary shelter right now." But Kang Di-an's mother didn't seem to hear her. She trembled and mumbled, "No, that thing can't possibly be my son." As she spoke, she clutched her head, trying to deny the reality of it. But Lee Yu-min coldly laid out the facts for her. "He is your son, Kang Di-an, 23 years old. There was an accident, and he got trapped inside the blood gate. He managed to escape, but he was turned into a monster." Kang Di-an's mother didn't want to hear it, shaking her head desperately, but Lee Yu-min grabbed her hands to stop her. She spoke in a near growl. After that, he stopped the blood gate from exploding and fought alongside hunters from all over the world to save you. Hearing this, Di-an's mother froze, her eyes fixed on the monitor where Kang Di-an was being repeatedly stomped to death by that madman. Meanwhile, after being kicked into the blood gate, Kang Di-an opened his eyes to find himself at home. He glanced around in a daze. After a moment, he realized this was his own house. For a second, Kang Di-an thought he had gone back to the past. But was it really the past? He hurriedly pushed the door open and rushed outside. He called out frantically, "Mom!" Outside, he saw the figure of his mother. But when she turned to face him, she had the face of a monster and a grotesque smile. Only then did Kang Di-an realize where he truly was. Reality was just too cruel. He was back in the blood gate, the very place where all his tragedies began. Dai couldn't hold it in any longer and threw his head back, letting out a primal scream. His screams echoed across the vast expanse. When he was a child, right after his father had passed away, a worried Kang Di-an had asked, "Mom, are you okay?" At the time, Kang Di-an's mother had quickly wiped away her tears before answering, "I'm fine." But Kang Di-an still felt guilty, muttering heartbrokenly, "It's my fault that Dad." But before he could finish, his mother had forced a gentle smile and said, "Kang Di-an, all you have to do is smile." She had always said that everything would be better if he just kept smiling. But what about now? Kang Di-an had endured countless tragedies, each wave of pain feeling like it was trying to tear him apart. He had gritted his teeth and borne it all, but the tragedies just kept coming, one after another. Just when Kang Di-an thought he could finally be happy again, he was thrown back into the blood gate. The mana inside was trying to turn DY into a monster, and that hideous face, that grotesque body, appeared once more. In the end, reality forced Kang Di-an to become the very monster that the world wanted to kill. That madman had been about to turn and leave. But then he heard a stir behind him and froze. Kang Di-an leaped out from inside the blood gate, pinning the man to the ground. Then, he threw his head back and laughed, a sound filled with utter despair. It was all this bastard's fault. He channeled all his rage into him, relentlessly punching and kicking. After a long while, Kang Di-an finally jumped off the madman, but the look on his face was terrifying. Gritting his teeth, he demanded, "Why would you do this? Why would you do this to me?" The man was stunned by the scene before him, unable to react. Seeing him silent, Kang Di-an charged forward in a frenzy. "You son of a bitch!" But the man swiftly dodged. Still, Kang Di-an didn't let up, lunging at him like a moth to a flame. His strength had grown. He furiously attacked the man, clearly intending to kill him, but his opponent was no pushover and managed to evade every blow. Let's go back a few days, to a grand pavilion in China where a conference was being held. Those below wouldn't stop chattering. "That monster. It's on a completely different level. Even America lost to it. Do we even stand a chance? Hearing this, China's number 2 SSS rank hunter, Chu Wei, let out a disdainful laugh. Ha, that's hilarious. You think he would lose? My brother? That's right. The man currently fighting Kang Di-an is none other than Chu Wei's older brother, China's number 1 SSS rank hunter, Ling Guang. But at this very moment, he was clearly on the back foot. He never expected the monster he was facing to be this powerful. Back in China, they had quickly solved the gate problem thanks to their overwhelming number of hunters. Some of these hunters even operated outside of national control. For example, there was the S-rank hunter from the Shaolin Temple, Tan Huaji, the SS rank hunter of the Three Teachings, Pei Yuzhen, the hunter from the MA sect, Zhao Yu, and the SS rank hunter from the Beggars sect, Fang Ruiwen. They all united to usher in a new era. Their leader was the SSS rank hunter of the Hushan sect, Kai Aoming. But then, Aoming was killed. And not just him, all the others were killed as well. They were all slaughtered by just 2 people, the brothers, Ling Guang and Chu Wei, who stood amidst a mountain of corpses as one of them spoke coolly. You kill them all, and I'll resurrect them to be our slaves. Is this really how we're going to unify China? Ling Guang had calmly replied, yes. And that is how China was unified. The only reason this became a reality was thanks to Ling Guang's illogical and extraordinary power. Returning to the present, to the battle between Kang Di-an and Ling Guang, after being on the defensive for a moment, Ling Guang regained his composure, raised his spear, and began his onslaught. The thick scent of fresh blood once again filled the air. He stepped on the fleshy remains of DY as he walked. With a cold smile, he said, I came here because I heard a rumor about someone strong, and goddamn, it was absolutely worth it. The moment Ling Guang finished speaking, Kang Di-an regenerated. He charged forward aggressively, cursing nonstop. Son of a bitch, you look like you're having a great time, don't you? Hearing his voice, Ling Guang braced himself and met the attack with his spear, moving as if he were dancing through the air. Countless slashes of light appeared, slicing through DY's body. Then, Ling Guang smirked and said, that's right, I am. The blades of light he created also sliced through the building next to them. With a loud crash, it was reduced to a pile of rubble. Ling Guang laughed gleefully. This is all so damn interesting. Right behind him, Dai Wai appeared once more, his voice deep and menacing. Yeah, I'm enjoying it too, you son of a bitch. As soon as the words left his mouth, he viciously kicked Ling Guang. In an instant, another explosion rocked the area, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. When the dust settled, Didi's hand was being held in place, and one of Ling Guang's feet was planted right under Kang Di-an's chin. He spoke slowly. But I don't understand. The powerful entity I was hoping to fight here was supposed to be a monster, but you're a human. DY let out a cold snort, then forcefully yanked his hand back, while simultaneously swiping at Ling Guang with his claws. But Ling Guang dodged, appearing behind Kang Di-an. He smirked and said, however, I can feel that your mana is definitely that of a monster. Kang Di-an sneered, so what? The moment he spoke, Ling Guang spun around, instantly appearing right in front of him. Immediately, another explosion erupted, sending rocks and dust flying everywhere. Ling Guang excitedly licked his lips. He said cheerfully, but even so, monsters don't fight to protect others. So, he guessed there must be someone or something here worth protecting. Hearing this, Kang Di-an fell silent. After a long hesitation, he finally spoke. Yeah, my mother abandoned me and ran away, but I still love her so much. Hearing this, Ling Guang nodded in understanding. There was definitely a story behind that. Speaking of which, he suddenly remembered something. Ling Guang winked and said with a smile, that's right, my little sister and I are nothing alike. Men are born to dream of becoming the strongest and are always ready to fight powerful foes. So if Dai Wai is strong, I will fight him and I will defeat him. With that, Ling Guang raised an eyebrow provocatively. Come on, let's fight. But just as the words left his mouth, Kang Di-an's hand shot out. His target, however, was the monster on the man's spear. Ling Guang immediately snapped to his senses, hurriedly swinging his spear to push him back. Kang Di-an wasn't in a rush and continued his assault. He smirked and said, I'm having a great time too. However, just as his fist was about to come down, a voice suddenly cried out from Ling Guang's spear, save me. But Kang Di-an didn't stop. He slashed down powerfully, completely obliterating the thing on his spear. Ling Guang wasn't fazed and simply summoned more weapons. DY narrowed his eyes at this display. In his hand, he now held an eyeball. Ling Guang spoke again, slowly. This is a sentient sword. A blacksmith forged it from the corpses of hunters. That's a seriously badass piece of work. Kang Di-an scoffed coldly, then charged at him again. At the same time, Ling Guang also swung his sword at Kang Di-an. His head was sliced off in an instant, but just a few seconds later, it grew back, and he attacked again, swinging his claws. Ling Guang was sent flying back, slamming into the wall. Just then, an old man leaning on a cane walked out. This old man was the S-rank blacksmith, Jack Bang. Ling Guang glanced at him and spoke coldly. "So, it's you. Have you collected the hunters' corpses?" Jack Bang nodded slightly and replied, "Yes, about 40 of them." Hearing this, Ling Guang gave a satisfied command. "You're up now." He then charged at Kang Di-an, leaving the old man to his work. "Understood?" Jack Bang nodded slightly, then began to forge the weapon. Ignoring his surroundings, the sound of his hammer rang out ceaselessly, and he quickly hammered the corpse before him into a pulp. Over here, Kang Di-an froze when he heard the hammering. The sound of Jack Bang's hammering was deafeningly jarring. Kang Di-an seemed to hear something coming from within the corpses. A moment later, Jack Bang's hammering finally stopped. His face covered in sweat, he hurriedly announced, "I'm finished." Jack Bang dragged the thing forged from 40 corpses over to Ling Guang. It was constantly letting out wails and cries. As soon as he saw it, Ling Guang laughed and said, "It's a masterpiece. Thanks." Immediately after, he hurled it with all his might. The giant mass of flesh instantly shot towards Kang Di-an. Kang Di-an quickly backed away, but the sounds coming from the giant flesh mass were incessant, making him frown. So, Kang Di-an reached out and touched one of the heads on it, the one that had just made a sound, calling for its daughter. Then, with his other hand, he touched another head that was calling for its mother. And then, Kang Di-an ripped them right out and crushed them to a pulp. He scoffed coldly. "A family reunion, huh?" Meanwhile, Ling Guang continued to control the giant tumor, relentlessly attacking Kang Di-an. Frantic screams echoed in his ears. "Kill me. It hurts so much. Get away. Don't touch me." Hearing them, Kang Di-an couldn't help but sneer. "How wonderful. All the foolish bastards who were killed by monsters are gathered here. I've killed so many people just like you. Those people were alive. But these ones are already dead." Kang Di-an scoffed again. "Easy." Then he began to slash wildly, destroying the fleshy tumor. At the same time, Ling Guang pointed his weapon at his face. He spoke coldly. "I always try to record everything when I fight. So last year, I bought an eye in Korea. The mana of this sword has a consciousness, and the owner of that eye was none other than Kang Di-an's childhood friend, the one whose head he had cut off in a previous battle. And right at that moment, his friend's head was right in front of Kang Di-an, having become Ling Guang's weapon. Fragments of memories with his friend flashed through Kang Di-an's mind, leaving him stunned. Just then, Ling Guang spoke again. "You're not even fighting. All you know is how to run away. You cowardly bastard." As soon as the words left his mouth, he swung his sword down. Dozens of sword strikes landed on Kang Di-an, who didn't even try to resist. Ling Guang turned and walked away without a second glance. Just like that, Kang Di-an was sliced into tiny pieces. Inside his subconscious, he was crying endlessly, the very picture of despair. Kang Di-an felt he could no longer face the world, but at that moment, his friend appeared. He hugged Kang Di-an and comforted him. "It's okay, man. We're friends." Even after hearing that, Kang Di-an couldn't stop crying. Remembering how he had chopped off his friend's head, he instantly went insane. He still couldn't accept the fact that he had killed his only friend with his own hands, and his friend's screams echoed endlessly in his ears. "We're friends. It hurts so much. My eye. Save me." Then, remembering the terrified look on his mother's face, Kang Di-an finally snapped and lost his mind. A ferocious look appeared in his eyes. He suddenly started laughing, but his smile was more painful to look at than tears. But very quickly, Kang Di-an's smile turned into a crazed one, and then he began to chop off his own head. When it grew back, he would chop it off again without a moment's hesitation. Because of his regenerative ability, Kang Di-an basically had no fear of death. He ignored the pain, endlessly chopping off his own head. Then Kang Di-an would smile again. Just like that, he repeated that single action, over and over. Ling Guang, who was watching from a distance, couldn't help but smirk. By now, Kang Di-an was laughing so hard that tears streamed down his face, and his laughter sounded incredibly mournful. He only stopped when the heads at his feet had piled up into a mountain. He smirked and asked, "Are you trying to kill me?" Meanwhile, in a pavilion in China, Chu Wei was resting when she suddenly thought of Ling Guang over in Korea. She frowned and mumbled, "I wonder if he's enjoying his fight." But just then, a puppet ran in from outside and yelled, "Chu Wei, the Northern Hunter team has been completely wiped out." The moment she heard this, Chu Wei's eyes widened in horror. She never would have dreamed that her Northern army could be completely annihilated by a single person. In eastern China, at the fortified castle of Beilong, or at least, that's what it used to be, because now, Han Tae-soo had destroyed it all. He laughed with satisfaction, saying, "How refreshing." But as soon as he finished speaking, his head suddenly tilted to one side. Then, mana threads appeared around Han Tae-soo, and he began to shake his head uncontrollably, like a puppet. Seeing this, Yu ran and hugged him. Han Tae-soo, "Ah, stop it, please. In the end, you were the one who was wrong. But after hearing this, Han Tae-soo shook his head and replied, no. He remembered the past, before everything had started. He had gone up to Kang Di-an and asked, what's your superpower? Kang Di-an frowned slightly and mumbled, me? It's external bone regeneration. But as soon as he said it, Han Tae-soo punched him. He scoffed coldly, that's ficking disgusting. Get the hell away from me. Then he turned and left. But even after being hit, Kang Di-an just laughed sheepishly and said, it is a bit disgusting, huh? Sorry. For some reason, these words really set Han Tae-soo off. His face turned incredibly ugly, and he believed that Kang Di-an was the one who started all the tragedies that followed. In another development, back in Korea, Kang Di-an had now gone mad, laughing and crying at the same time. Seeing this, Ling Guang was momentarily stunned. Just then, Kang Di-an spoke again, who wants to kill me? Ling Guang quickly recovered and immediately rushed forward, kicking Kang Di-an in the face. At the same time, he swung his sword to attack again. In just a few moves, all 4 of Kang Di-an's limbs were severed by him, but as long as even a small part of his body remained, Kang Di-an would regenerate. Ling Guang knew this and attacked him furiously. The sword in his hand danced ceaselessly through the air. Kang Di-an was once again sliced to pieces by him, but he still had one eye left. The mana within the Bloodgate once again enveloped him. Ling Guang, for his part, wasn't idle either. He pressed the hilt of his sword, and instantly, the sharp blade transformed into a long spear. He swung it wide. With a loud crash, Kang Di-an was sent flying into the building behind them. Ling Guang didn't give him a moment to breathe, attacking again and slicing his body to pieces with a single strike. But before long, a complete body reappeared on the ground. Without hesitation, Ling Guang raised his spear and expertly thrust it into one of Kang Di-an's eyes. But just then, Kang Di-an flashed a gruesome smile. He sat up, ignoring Ling Guang's spear as it tore through the side of his face. Kang Di-an lunged with his claws aimed right at Ling Guang, but he wasn't idle either. He channeled mana into his spear, and with a deafening boom, Kang Di-an's body exploded. But just 2 seconds later, an arm crawled out from the bloody mess, vaguely reaching for Ling Guang. And just like that, the two of them fought fiercely among the towering skyscrapers. Under the force of Ling Guang's relentless assault, they quickly turned into a pile of rubble. But he had no intention of sparing Kang Di-an, his spear continuously stabbing downwards. Kang Di-an finally couldn't hold on any longer. The long spear pierced through him, and his body fell limp. Kang Di-an didn't resist, letting himself fall as if plunging into deep water. Kang Di-an tried to open his mouth to breathe, but water kept pouring down his throat, causing his vision to grow increasingly blurry. Suddenly, Kang Di-an remembered something his mother once told him. She said that all he had to do was smile, but in his current situation, could he really smile? Kang Di-an had gone mad. He actually managed to crack a smile, but it was a smile more grotesque than crying. Bit by bit, the water filled his throat, suffocating him. Meanwhile, after stabbing Kang Di-an's body, Ling Guang found himself trapped in a strange space. Before him was a swirling vortex of mana, emitting an immense power from within. In an instant, Kang Di-an crawled out from within, looking like a demon emerging from the gates of hell, a truly terrifying sight. Seeing this, Ling Guang couldn't help but frown, but in the next moment, something sliced clean through his neck. Just as his head was severed, he reached up and reattached it, just like a puppet. It was as if his head and neck had never been separated. Kang Di-an frowned at the sight, but another strange transformation occurred. Half of Ling Guang's face was being eaten away by a green liquid, and even his hand was suffering the same fate. But he didn't seem to care, reaching out to crush Kang Di-an's head, then kicking out to shatter his body. Unfortunately for him, Kang Di-an's body quickly regenerated once again. Ling Guang didn't waste any time, immediately throwing his spear. A flurry of blade-like lights danced in the air, then enveloped Kang Di-an's body. Yet Ling Guang didn't stop, continuing his frenzied attack. In the blink of an eye, Kang Di-an's body was pierced by dozens of spears, and even his head was chopped off. It fell to the ground just like that. But as it fell, a stream of energy enveloped the head, which was now sporting a gruesome grin. Ling Guang stood there, looking up at the scene. That thing, now like an orb, was drawing closer and closer before his very eyes, and then it shot down like a meteor from the sky. Ling Guang stared, stunned, unable to react in time. By the time he got a clear look, the head had transformed back into Kang Di-an. His claws plunged straight down, sending fresh blood splattering everywhere. Meanwhile, in China, Han Tae-soo was currently pinned to the ground, and the one holding him down was none other than Chu Wei. She had a lollipop in her mouth, looking completely relaxed. After a while, Chu Wei took the candy out, a smirk playing on her lips as she asked, "So it was you, the one who killed my people." At that moment, both Han Tae-soo and Li Yeju were subdued. Chu Wei narrowed her eyes at Tae-soo and sneered, "Now, you'll have to face 100 million hunters all by yourself." And behind her was indeed an army of hunters, all of them her puppets. But just as Chu Wei finished speaking, a massive explosion erupted, filling the sky with smoke and dust. Seizing the opportunity, Han Tae-soo grabbed Li Yeju and fled. Li Yeju looked up at him and asked hesitantly, "Han Tae-soo, why are you so stubborn?" Han Tae-soo pursed his lips and muttered, "I can't give up. Kang Di-an, I have to kill that bastard." At the same time, millions of puppets were closing in on them from behind. In the past, the three of them, Han Tae-soo and his friends, had skipped class to sit in a flower-filled forest near their school. Seoho suddenly spoke up. "There are too many hunters in this world, and right now they're all fighting each other. But eventually, they'll come to Korea." Then he told Han Tae-soo that if one day he died in battle, Han Tae-soo should absorb their mana. After hearing this, Han Tae-soo's eyes widened in shock. How could I? But before he could finish, Seoho shook his head and cut him off. "No, this way. Even if we die, we'll live on inside you. We're friends, after all." Unbeknownst to anyone, in that flower forest that day, a vow was made between the three bastards. They promised to be together forever, but hey, you reap what you sow. You can't live a scummy life and expect things to turn out well. In the end, of the three bastards, only their leader, Han Tae-soo, was left alive. Because of this, Han Tae-soo believed he had failed to keep their promise, and the one responsible was none other than Kang Di-an. He wanted to kill him to avenge his friends. After hearing this, Li Yeju sighed helplessly. She thought Tae-soo was talking nonsense. In Li Yeju's memory, they were indeed in the flower forest that day. But after hearing what Seoho said, Han Tae-soo had spoken up coldly. "When that happens, all of you will die." Haha. Those words made Seoho cry out in alarm. Han Tae-soo, Han Tae-soo, feeling he'd said nothing wrong, peered down from a tree branch, his face filled with killing intent as he cursed. "What the hell? Are you crazy?" And yet, now, inside a cave, Han Tae-soo stood before Yeju and said, "I have to avenge my friends." Then he turned and left, leaving Li Yeju staring after him in a daze. She had no idea what had happened to make him change so much. Soon after, Han Tae-soo appeared before Chu Wei's army of puppets. She was the number 2 hunter in China. Her ability was to resurrect and enslave the awakened who had died. With that power, Chu Wei had resurrected all of China's hunters. Therefore, she was the very embodiment of China, and Han Tae-soo was now facing such an entity. And even someone like Chu Wei could feel that something was wrong when countless figures of Han Tae-soo suddenly appeared before her. This man had completely overwhelmed an SSS rank. No, that wasn't right. She felt that Han Tae-soo was beyond all comprehension. He had surpassed all of humanity. As he faced Chu Wei's massive army, Han Tae-soo showed no fear, his survival instincts still intact. Even without his consciousness, the mere sight of him made the puppet army fall back. Sensing the danger, Chu Wei quickly activated her ability and shouted, "I am always right behind you." The puppet army seemed to be reinvigorated with newfound strength. They charged forward again with incredible ferocity, because even if they died, Chu Wei would just resurrect them again and again. Chu Wei shouted again, "So just fight him." But Han Tae-soo was extraordinarily powerful, cutting them all down. He slaughtered them relentlessly, going on a crazed rampage. In the past, Han Tae-soo had shattered other people's families. There's no telling how many happy homes he destroyed. In this moment, he was practically driven mad. Oblivious to the danger, Chu Wei casually sat in the back, sucking on a lollipop. She spoke confidently, "I am the embodiment of China. You think I'm going to lose to the likes of you?" But the moment she finished speaking, Han Tae-soo dashed right in front of her. He let out a cold scoff and said, "That's right." Then, with a single slash, Chu Wei's head tumbled to the ground. In the moment of her death, her mind flashed back to the past, to a large palace on a mountain, where a group of people had just stormed in. They were from the Huashan sect, led by the SSS, rank hunter, Ao Min. He pointed his sword at a woman kneeling on the ground and said coldly, "This is now the territory of the Huashan sect." Even though she was captured, the woman spoke defiantly. "Why are you still here, you bastards?" She told them this was the land her family had always lived on. But before she could finish, Ao Min swung his sword, and her head fell. It rolled into a hidden corner, where 2 children were hiding, the siblings, Chu Wei and Ling Guang. Chu Wei, who was very young at the time, burst into sobs upon seeing the head, but fearing they'd be discovered, she quickly covered her mouth to muffle her crying. However, Ling Guang, who was beside her, asked emotionlessly, "Why are you crying?" He said their mother and father died because they were weak. Hearing this, a shocked Chu Wei asked back, "Aren't you sad?" Shrugging indifferently, Ling Guang replied, "Why should I be sad? I'm just going to get stronger and kill every last one of them." From that day on, the 2 siblings relied only on each other to survive, eventually climbing to the pinnacle of power in China. But in this moment, Chu Wei had been defeated. In the final moment of her life, she thought that perhaps she was dying because she was weak, just as Ling Guang had judged their parents for their weakness. Just then, Han Tae-soo walked over to Chu Wei's head. He picked up the lollipop that had fallen from her hand and, without hesitation, popped it into his mouth. The candy's sweetness spread across his tongue, and his current action was eerily similar to Chu Wei's. Meanwhile, in the midst of the battle between Kang Di-an and Ling Guang, caught off guard, Ling Guang failed to react in time and was pinned to the ground by Kang Di-an. Kang Di-an then opened the blood gate and started pushing him inside. When Ling Guang realized what was happening, he frowned, but it was too late. His body was slowly being swallowed by the blood gate. Seeing this, Kang Di-an let out a triumphant smile. However, in the middle of his celebration, a hand shot out from the blood gate and grabbed his leg, and just like that, Ling Guang dragged Kang Di-an down with him. At the same time, Ling Guang's eyes suddenly began to glow, and a poison flowed into Kang Di-an's body. Kang Di-an couldn't help but tremble. Ling Guang narrowed his eyes at him, and said with a smirk, "So, you came out of a place like this? Unbelievable." He then added, "So, is that why you're so damn strong?" After saying that, he dashed forward again and shouted, "I'll admit it. Of all the people I've ever fought, you are the strongest." As soon as the words left his mouth, Ling Guang slammed his fist into Kang Di-an's stomach. A blinding light erupted on impact, and Kang Di-an's body was instantly blown to pieces. But Ling Guang wasn't finished and charged in once more. He let out a cold snort. "That's why you'll be the first person I use this technique on. It's an art created by combining every poison in the world." In the blink of an eye, strange objects materialized in the air, then merged together to form a massive, sharp spike. It injected poison into Kang Di-an's body, making him throw his head back and scream. Ling Guang watched this unfold and asked with a sneer, "What do you think? Think you can resist it?" But the moment the words left his lips, Kang Di-an suddenly attacked. Ling Guang couldn't react in time and took a direct hit. Once again, Kang Di-an was right in his face. Ling Guang didn't know what this feeling was. It was like the first piece of candy he'd ever eaten, or his father's smile. Then there was Ling Guang's first ever victory, followed by his second and third. When Ling Guang got a little older, he achieved his 9th win. And for every year Ling Guang grew older, he fought in countless battles, until his victories numbered 1 million. But right now, fighting Kang Di-an, Ling Guang felt that this was even better than all of those past victories combined. Why was that? He honestly had no idea. Just then, the poison was released once again. A vortex formed in midair, sucking both Ling Guang and Kang Di-an inside. Ling Guang was completely unharmed, but Kang Di-an was slowly being corroded by the poison. Before long, however, Ling Guang also began to merge with the poison himself. A horrifying smile spread across his face. He suddenly recalled a memory from the past, when a woman once told him she loved him, but he had no idea what love even was. He'd been with countless women, and this particular one had pinned him down, telling him that someday he would understand. Ling Guang snapped out of the memory. The poison had now seeped into his own body, and he and Kang Di-an were being drawn toward each other. It was as if the two of them were merging into one. The poison was binding the two of them together. At the same time, the blood gate opened, trying to resurrect Kang Di-an. They were both pulled into the poison's vortex. Wild strands of mana clashed violently. In an instant, Kang Di-an and Ling Guang became fused together, and their memories were laid bare for the other to see. 2 film reels, replaying 2 different tragedies, began to unfold, revealing the pasts they had both endured. Meanwhile, because of their battle, the mana fluctuations had become too immense, and the entire building began to crack. And then, it quickly collapsed into a pile of rubble, crushing both Kang Di-an and Ling Guang. Fragments of Kang Di-an's body were scattered everywhere, but they quickly began to merge back together piece by piece. Meanwhile, at the Hunter Association's auxiliary shelter, Li Yumin was trying to treat Kang Di-an's mother. She supported the older woman, asking worriedly, "Are you okay?" Kang Di-an's mother didn't reply. Her eyes were fixed on the monitor screen as she trembled and whispered, "My son." Hearing this, Li Yumin also looked toward the screen, a thoughtful expression in her eyes. Elsewhere, in China, Li Yeju was waiting patiently in a cave. After a while, she suddenly grew frantic. Han Tae-soo had returned, but one of his arms was gone. Li Yeju rushed over, sobbing, "Do you have any idea how worried I was?" But in that moment, Han Tae-soo was just like a puppet, his head lolled to one side, muttering to himself, "Why is this happening?" In the past, his father never cared for him, even his mother didn't love him, and his brother wanted Han Tae-soo to kill people. All he ever wanted was to be loved. Li Yeju knew his past all too well, and couldn't help but embrace him tightly. Just then, Han Tae-soo spoke up. "The memory of the dinner where my grandparents were murdered. I have to go out." The world's gaze turned toward the glowing sky between the 2 levels. From the depths of the abyss, a finger pointed a final act of mockery. As he stood there muttering, Li Yeju hugged him tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. While they were distracted, someone approached the mouth of the cave. Li Yeju looked up and saw that it was a girl with a large, terrifying scar on her face. Li Yeju frowned slightly, asking suspiciously, "Are you the hunter, Haname, from Japan? What are you doing here?" The woman who had just arrived was indeed Haname. She answered slowly, "I heard you are gathering forces to get revenge on Di-an." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo immediately threw his head back. He smirked and asked, "You want to become part of my strength?" Haname replied calmly, "It won't be just me. I heard that in your group, there's a hunter who can resurrect dead awakened beings." This made Li Yeju frown slightly, but Haname, in contrast, was very sincere. She pleaded in a low voice, "Please, save this person." With that, she showed Han Tae-soo the head she was holding. It was the frozen head of Ryusaki Ruto. Haname slowly explained, "We are the two strongest hunters in Japan. We will be very useful to you." Upon hearing this, Han Tae-soo couldn't help but laugh out loud. Immediately after, he spoke coldly. "All right then." As soon as he finished speaking, Han Tae-soo chopped off Haname's head, placing it opposite Ryusaki Ruto's. The two of them were finally reunited. Just then, Han Tae-soo suddenly spoke. "What's wrong, my love?" The moment he spoke, a figure as hot as lava charged at him. Unfortunately, before it could even touch Han Tae-soo, he sliced its head off. The lava-like body exploded, leaving only the head in Han Tae-soo's hand. At that moment, mana threads poured out from Ryusaki Ruto's eyes. Fragmented memories began to piece themselves together, appearing before Han Tae-soo. After seeing them, he couldn't help but cover his face, his eyes filled with anguish. Meanwhile, in Korea, after regenerating his body, Kang Di-an started to run, but one of his feet was wearing a shoe. Perhaps it was Ling Guang's leg. At that moment, Ling Guang was just half a body, his limbs having been severed. Just then, he suddenly called out Kang Di-an's name. The remaining part of Ling Guang's body suddenly moved, and then, as if going mad, he screamed, "Kang Di-an!" And then, the two once again pressed their foreheads together. Ling Guang suddenly gasped for air, then uttered a cryptic phrase. How interesting. In the past, Ling Guang's father had once told him to become strong so he would never have to endure humiliation again. He cried as he spoke, "Become so strong that you can even defeat your own father." But as soon as the words left his father's mouth, Ling Guang swung his hand, and his father's head fell to the ground. He cried out, "Father," and then raised his hand, shouting, "I won!" Before the gates engulfed in flames that day, Ling Guang killed his own father, lighting a competitive fire within his heart. Back in the present, Ling Guang had lost to Di-an. He muttered "father" twice, then his head slumped down. Ling Guang's life was completely extinguished. Just then, someone walked over. It was the blacksmith Ling Guang had brought with him, Jack Bang. He walked over to Ling Guang's corpse and knelt down. Then, Jack Bang raised his hammer and roared, "You're finally dead." With that, he slammed the hammer down on Ling Guang's body. The sound of the hammer echoed endlessly as the corpse was smashed to a pulp. Jack Bang seemed to have gone mad. At the same time, Kang Di-an, having just survived the battle, suddenly didn't know what to do. He glanced at the rubble behind him. Some people had been impaled by steel bars, others crushed by massive stones. In short, the scene was too tragic to look at. Countless people were dead, their bodies submerged in a sea of blood. All of South Korea was now covered in a horrific shade of red. At that moment, a steel rod flew from out of nowhere and pierced through Kang Di-an's head. When he looked closer, he saw a corpse that had been impaled by a steel bar, and from underneath it, another person had crawled out and used that very bar to stab him in the head. The person's face was utterly grotesque. After stabbing Kang Di-an in the head with the steel bar, they too stopped breathing. Kang Di-an's head slumped heavily. A crowd of people rushed in from out of nowhere, surrounding him in an instant, their faces filled with rage. Then they began to relentlessly attack Di-an with weapons. They poured all their fury into their strikes, each blow intended to kill him. Fresh blood splattered everywhere in an instant. Kang Di-an's body was beaten to a pulp by them, accompanied by angry curses. "Die, you monster. You beast, my daughter. Why won't a monster like you just disappear from this world?" Kang Di-an was beaten to a bloody mess, and then they ran him over with a car. A mangled mess of flesh and blood lay on the ground. Kang Di-an had been crushed completely. In that moment, the only thing he could think was that he would never see his mother again. Just then, a man approached with a saw. He intended to saw through the last remaining eye on the ground. At that exact moment, a scream suddenly rang out. Kang Di-an. He saw the figure of his mother. Yu Min had brought her here. Seeing Di-an in such a state, she ran towards him heartbroken, calling out for her son. But before she could even touch Kang Di-an, a rock flew through the air and struck his mother in the head. This sight finally made Kang Di-an shed tears. Meanwhile, Han Tae-soo was on the verge of madness, muttering something non-stop. Li Yeju, watching beside him, was worried, but he just kept kneeling there, spouting incomprehensible words, which made her panic and cry loudly. Then, she could no longer hold back, and muttered guiltily, "I'm sorry." With that, Lee Yeju raised her hand to knock Tae-soo unconscious because she didn't want to lose him. In the past, in a rundown house in the city, lived Lee Yeju's family. Her father was a hopeless drunk. He beat his wife all day long, but Lee Yeju's mother was autistic and, despite the beatings, would always say she loved him. For them, the gates and the appearance of the awakened were a disaster. Lee Yeju's mother couldn't control her ability and killed her husband on the spot, but because she had a mental illness and had children, she only received a suspended sentence. Lee Yeju used to think that was for the best, but her brother didn't think so. From that day on, he started working outside and became abusive at home. He even beat his own mother, no different from their drunkard father. You could say the violence was hereditary. Yeju's brother started by using his fists, then moved on to using weapons. His behavior became more and more severe, and then Lee Yeju awakened her ability. At that time, she thought that if she could earn, making a lot of money as a hunter was the only way to escape this hell. Thoughts like these swirled in her head as she drifted off to sleep. But Lee Yeju's brother wouldn't let her be. While she was trying to sleep, he threw Yeju outside and started beating her. Lee Yeju didn't fight back, just letting him beat her to within an inch of her life. It was like this every night. Lee Yeju was dragged out and abused by her brother. Her cries for help echoed endlessly, but no one ever heard them. Until one day, Lee Yeju's mother happened to witness the scene. She tried to save her daughter, but that ungrateful bastard kicked her to the ground. Only after beating both mother and daughter was he satisfied. Seeing her mother lying there, Lee Yeju couldn't stop crying. She crawled over to her, hugging her tightly and sobbing uncontrollably. But Lee Yeju's brother found her crying annoying, so he slapped her again. As he beat her, all she could do was helplessly watch her mother fall into a pool of her own blood. Then one day at the park, as usual, Han Tae-soo came to confess to Lee Yeju. "I've killed again," he said. "How many more until it stops? Their parents aren't even here anymore." He knew his ability was a curse. But unlike every other day when Lee Yeju would just comfort him, today, she spoke up. "I've awakened," she said. "It's a mana-regulation ability. I can use it on you and seal your power." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo cried out joyfully. "Really, Lee Yeju?" She nodded slightly and said in a flat voice, "But first, can you kill one more person for me?" As she spoke, she took off her jacket, revealing her face, which was swollen to a pulp. And so, a little while later, Lee Yeju led Han Tae-soo to her house. Her bastard of a brother opened the door and immediately started cursing. "You little bitch. What the hell are you doing coming home so late?" But he never expected Han Tae-soo to be outside. Han Tae-soo struck him with a blow that went straight through his heart, killing him on the spot. While the two inexperienced teenagers were in shock over what they'd just done, a figure appeared behind them. It was Han Tae-soo's older brother. He immediately wrapped an iron chain around Han Tae-soo's neck. He questioned him in a cold voice. "Han Tae-soo, what the hell are you doing?" Han Tae-soo desperately tried to explain. "Brother, it's just that," but his brother wouldn't listen. He grabbed Han Tae-soo's head and yelled, "Hey, wasn't killing all those people enough for you?" He asked if it was really necessary to kill yet another person. Seeing Han Tae-soo being hit, Lee Yeju immediately tried to intervene, but before she could even touch his brother, he grabbed her hand. He spoke with contempt. "What the hell is this?" Seeing this, Han Tae-soo didn't want Lee Yeju to get hurt. He suddenly stood up to run, causing his brother to lose his balance and fall. Lee Yeju seized the opportunity to activate her ability on Han Tae-soo's brother, holding him in place. Han Tae-soo could now move normally again. His voice trembled as he called out, "Brother." Hearing the sound, his brother looked up. But just then, a cluster of sharp spikes erupted from the ground, impaling him. Han Tae-soo and Lee Yeju had killed two people in just a matter of minutes, and all they could do was hold each other and cry. Lee Yeju asked worriedly, "What do we do now?" Han Tae-soo patted her shoulder comfortingly. "Don't worry, I'll always protect you." And just like that, the two of them fought side by side, leading the Kang Guild to the very top. But in this moment, for some reason, Han Tae-soo had gone insane. Lee Yeju had no other choice but to act, but before she could even touch Han Tae-soo, he grabbed her hand. He spoke in a cold voice. "What the hell is this?" Her voice trembled as she called out, "Han Tae-soo?" But he seemed to have gone completely berserk, not recognizing anyone, and killed her right there on the spot. By the time he realized what he'd done, Lee Yeju was just a pool of blood. Grief-stricken, he reached out to gather her remains, but it was too late. Han Tae-soo had just killed someone with a puppet resurrection ability, and now he had also killed Lee Yeju, who had the power to heal. The two conflicting abilities nearly drove him mad as he screamed. Just then, a hand emerged from the pool of blood. Immediately, another blood-curdling scream rang out. Moments later, Han Tae-soo coughed up a mouthful of blood. He fell to his knees in agony, his body trembling uncontrollably. Then, for some unknown reason, he started smashing his head into the ground. Han Tae-soo only stopped when he had created a large crater in the earth. His figure suddenly blurred, as if thousands upon thousands of other souls were trying to take over his body. Han Tae-soo stood there alone, his figure looking tragic from behind. But soon after, countless versions of him began to rush forward. An insane amount of mana surged towards the other side of the world. Han Tae-soo ran all the way to the blood gate. He just stood there, as if reminiscing about the past, while strands of mana from within the gate seeped ceaselessly into his body. Countless blood gates were now supplying energy to Han Tae-soo. He bit his lip, trying to endure the excruciating pain. Immediately after, he wrapped both hands around the blood gate and, with all his might, began to force it shut. In just a moment, the blood gate was completely sealed, and the mana from within no longer flowed out. Meanwhile, in South Korea, after seeing his mother get hit in the head with a rock, Kang Di-an regenerated his body and crawled towards her, but Lee Yu-min grabbed his shoulder to stop him. Kang Di-an's eyes filled with grief as tears began to stream down his face. He looked up at Lee Yu-min, as if waiting for something, but she remained silent. A moment later, Kang Di-an glanced behind him at the crowd that had thrown the rocks at his mother. In an instant, the mana in his body surged once more. In a flash, a complete body appeared once more. Lee Yu-min finally spoke. We were all destined to die anyway. But how could Kang Di-an accept that? He had done all of this just to bring his mother back to life. Fueled by overwhelming rage, his body began to transform. Red spots appeared on his chest as mana poured out of him endlessly. The side of his face that was still human now twisted into a bestial form. Seeing this, Kang Di-an's mother was stunned. She remembered the small child she once held in her arms, and her body suddenly convulsed. After a moment of hesitation, she staggered towards Kang Di-an. In the past, she had almost abandoned her son, so she refused to do so again. In her eyes, the monster before her was nothing but her own precious child. She walked towards him step by step, just as she had comforted him when he cried as a child. She reached out and touched his bony chest. Seeing this, Kang Di-an couldn't help but call out, "Mom." She nodded gently and replied, "Yes, Mommy's here." Seeing her son again, she could no longer hold back her tears. She cried as she murmured, "My son, no matter what happens, I will always love you." But as soon as the words left her mouth, a pair of hands appeared from behind and ripped her head apart. As fresh blood dripped to the ground, the killer's face was revealed. It was none other than Han Tae-soo. Then, without a word, he chopped off Kang Di-an's head. Seeing Han Tae-soo, the surrounding crowd immediately began to murmur amongst themselves. The hunter from the Kang Guild, Han Tae-soo. He's still alive? But Han Tae-soo didn't seem to care. He said coldly, "I've already closed almost every gate in the world. And this is the last one. The one currently sucking Kang Di-an inside." The mana in Han Tae-soo's body surged out in an instant, and his face began to crack. He spoke coldly, "Goodbye." Kang Di-an finally reacted, a flash of fury appearing in his eyes. He had been so close to a happy reunion with his mother, but once again, Han Tae-soo had shoved Kang Di-an into the blood gate, just as he himself had been years ago. It was him who had shattered all of his dreams. The person Kang Di-an hated most in this life was definitely that bastard, Han Tae-soo, and now, he was once again falling into the blood gate. The moment the horde of monsters inside saw him fall, they pounced like hungry tigers. Kang Di-an had no time to think. He quickly got to his feet and began to fight the monsters. He wasn't the same as he was years ago. He was much stronger now. Kang Di-an's claws plunged down again and again, and fresh blood instantly rained down. He killed one after another, no matter how many there were. If one came, Kang Di-an killed one. If two came, he killed them both. If a whole swarm came, he killed them all. In just a moment, countless monsters had died at Kang Di-an's hands. He fought until he was exhausted, his legs giving out as he collapsed. He lay there on the ground, exhausted, but before his eyes, countless images of that bastard Han Tae-soo appeared. That detestable face seemed to be mocking him. In an instant, Kang Di-an's rage surged. He bit his lip fiercely. He had to kill Han Tae-soo. Kang Di-an told himself he had to get out and take revenge on that bastard. Just then, a giant monster stomped down from above, but a pool of blood appeared beneath its foot. Kang Di-an burst up from below, shattering its leg. Fresh blood soaked his entire body, but he didn't care and continued to slaughter the horde. Kang Di-an had to wipe them all out to open the blood gate once more. He bit his lip fiercely, his face filled with resentment. He let out a roar and then charged back into the fray. Meanwhile, outside, at the association's headquarters, news was breaking on the television. The Bloodgate incident from 6 years ago claimed the lives of countless national heroes, and the one being mentioned was Hunter Han Tae-soo. But at that moment, a diamond spike shattered the TV. The one who did it was Han Tae-soo. 2 women were beside him, and seeing this, they asked uncertainly, "What's wrong?" Han Tae-soo yelled coldly, "Shut up!" Yet, the 2 women weren't afraid, and clung to him, cooing, "Hey, Han Tae-soo, why are you so cold?" Who knows what nerve those words struck in Han Tae-soo. His eyes widened in anger as a painful memory flashed through his mind, and just like that, the woman beside him was killed by Han Tae-soo. Not even a body was left, just a pile of blood and flesh. The remaining woman was so terrified by the gory scene that she shuddered and quickly backed away from him. She scrambled to run outside. At the same time, another woman walked in and said indifferently, "Doing this won't solve your pain." The newcomer was Lee Yu-min. Dressed in a cool bath towel, she walked to the side of the bed without the slightest hesitation. Lee Yu-min placed her hand on Han Tae-soo's face and said softly, "Han Tae-soo, out of everything in this world, only I can heal you." As soon as she said this, tears fell from Han Tae-soo's eyes. That day, when he pushed Kang Di-an into the blood gate, the crowd around them had cheered his name endlessly. But no one knew what he had sacrificed for that day. So, the cheering crowd disgusted Han Tae-soo, and so, immediately after, he used his mana threads to kill every single one of them. It had started to rain outside, but Han Tae-soo took the time to return to the park he and Yu used to visit. He sat on a swing, letting the rain pour down on him, looking utterly alone. The other swing beside him was broken, and the person who used to sit there was gone. The place was the same, but the person was gone. Han Tae-soo couldn't hold it in any longer and cried, his tears mixed with the rain in profound sorrow. Just then, someone approached from behind. It was Lee Yu-min. She hugged Han Tae-soo from behind, and from that day on, she had returned with Han Tae-soo. Han Tae-soo now snorted coldly, thinking about how she'd become like this when she had once helped Kang Di-an. But before he could finish his thought, Yu-min cut him off indifferently. "Don't you want to see it again?" Han Tae-soo frowned slightly and asked. "See what?" She replied flatly, "Kang Di-an." Han Tae-soo's brow furrowed immediately, but Lee Yu-min didn't care and continued. "Even though you killed Kang Di-an's mother 6 years ago, you didn't even fight him. You just threw him into the blood gate and closed it." She asked him, "Are you scared? Didn't you defeat all the SSS rankers?" Her words enraged Han Tae-soo. He instantly grabbed Lee Yu-min's throat and slammed her down. Han Tae-soo growled through gritted teeth. "Yes, I want to see him, so I can rip him to shreds." As he said this, his face was filled with such murderous intent that it stunned Lee Yu-min for a moment. But Han Tae-soo didn't care and continued speaking. "In fact, I've even tried opening the gate to do just that. I was curious if it would hurt, but I failed." Yu-min squinted at him for a long moment before speaking slowly. "I'll tell you something interesting. According to the laws of the universe, worlds periodically collapse. When that happens, things called gates appear. As time passes and the gates connect to hell, they transform into blood gates," Lee Yu-min said. "Although you trapped Kang Di-an in hell, the master of that place will find him." Just as she said, someone in the blood gate had found Kang Di-an, and that person was the master of hell. After speaking, Lee Yu-min turned and pressed herself on top of Han Tae-soo, a smirk on her lips. "So, you'll be seeing him soon." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo immediately cried out in alarm. "What? What are you talking about?" Yu-min replied casually. "Just wait. You need to stay alive until that day comes, too." With that, she got off the bed, intending to leave. But before she could go, Han Tae-soo pinned her against the wall and asked in a cold voice, "Who are you?" Han Tae-soo frowned at this, his face filled with suspicion. At a movie theater, the story of Kang Di-an was being shown for everyone to see. On the screen, Kang Di-an appeared in his monstrous form. He mumbled in a low voice, "Mom, I had a nightmare. You were torn to pieces." And he had been there for 6 years as a monster. Although Kang Di-an received the power of Pael and could leave, he said that if he did, the world would be destroyed. At this point, the screen suddenly changed, showing countless monster faces, along with Kang Di-an's tragic voice. "Am I going crazy? I just want to get out." He said he wanted to leave this place and get revenge, and he wanted to do the same to Han Tae-soo, something so painful that the guy couldn't even breathe. Kang Di-an wanted to rip out Han Tae-soo's guts while he was still alive and then kill him. But even so, he couldn't bring himself to kill all the innocent people. At this, Kang Di-an suddenly froze, his face filled with anguish. Like a child who'd done something wrong, he mumbled in a small voice, "But Mom, you know, I'm a goddamn innocent person too." His father had died because of a truck that ran a red light. What the hell had he done to get beaten by Han Tae-soo? Killing everything after living for 6 years in the blood gate was simply self-defense. Kang Di-an said he destroyed Japan just to save his mother. Lucas's case was different. He said that man just kept spouting nonsense even when he had the power to help him. And then there was that prismatic bastard. Kang Di-an said he killed himself. If it weren't for him, he would have had a good life with his mom. Or would he? That was just Di-an's fantasy. Because his mother had been torn to pieces, Di-an wondered if Tae-soo would have come and killed his mother anyway. No matter what he did, the scene changed again. Di-an stared off into the distance. He whispered, "Anyway, Mom, I'll be honest with you." He said he had already killed a lot of innocent people. And now, Kang Di-an felt like he wanted them all to die. Someone in the audience heard this and couldn't help but curse viciously. And just like that, the film The Life of Kang Di-an ended. The person sitting in the audience couldn't help but let out a scoff. That person was none other than Kang Di-an himself, and next to him were the two halves of his mother's body. He cursed in frustration. Son of a bitch. Just when it seemed to be over, an epilogue suddenly appeared on the screen. They extended their thanks to the national hero, Han Tae-soo, saying that thanks to him, the world had enjoyed a long period of peace, and everyone was very happy. Happy, as long as Di-an wasn't there. Hearing these words, Di-an stood up to leave, but a voice called out from the screen. Wait, it's not over yet. Di-an couldn't be bothered with its nonsense, and smashed the screen. At that moment, his mother's corpse suddenly moved its lips. She whispered, "Everything is nothingness." Kang Di-an paid it no mind, ripping a hole in space and stepping outside. The theater was now empty, but just as he was stepping through the portal, Kang Di-an suddenly stopped, then gave a bitter smile and said, "I knew it." At the same time, a crack appeared in the sky over Korea. Yu-min was standing inside her house, watching helplessly as someone broke down the door and fled, while Han Tae-soo instantly dashed down to the city below. A figure appeared in the air, with two large wings on its back. This person was none other than Kang Di-an. Han Tae-soo narrowed his eyes at him, his face filled with rage, but Kang Di-an didn't back down, meeting his gaze head-on. Just then, Han Tae-soo's face suddenly distorted, and his figure became blurry. But soon after, hundreds of thousands of Han Tae-soo's figures appeared, confronting the army of monsters before them. With a deafening boom, an earth-shattering explosion erupted, instantly filling the sky with smoke and fire. Di-an charged forward, riding on the back of a monster, and Han Tae-soo, not to be outdone, quickly rushed in to attack. In the blink of an eye, the two of them began to fight, their figures flashing across the sky, while below, the monsters and Han Tae-soo's clones clashed fiercely in midair. Just then, Kang Di-an's flying monster shot out a beam of black energy, knocking Han Tae-soo out of the sky. Kang Di-an looked down from above, as if mocking him for his weakness. Han Tae-soo couldn't take it anymore, and used his power to create a massive diamond, but it quickly transformed into a flying monster. He climbed onto its back, flew into the sky, and confronted Kang Di-an directly. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out once more. The two of them fought a life-or-death battle, their fight taking them off of Earth itself. The immense amount of mana radiating from them instantly changed the atmosphere. In a distant country, in a small house, an old woman was paying her respects before a portrait of her late husband. Suddenly, a wave of energy tore in from nowhere, reducing her to a bloody pulp, her blood splattering everywhere. Kang Di-an and Han Tae-soo had no idea they had just killed someone, and continued their fight. Given that Han Tae-soo had previously killed many people, from Russia's top hunter, Vladimir Rusana, to China's second-ranked hunter, Chu Wei, there was no reason for him to fear facing Kang Di-an now. At the same time, the blood gates opened once again. Civilians who stumbled upon them couldn't escape in time, and were torn to pieces by the demonic creatures pouring out from within. The hordes of monsters rushed out and began attacking the populace. Just like a few years ago, an angel-like figure appeared. As everyone was despairingly awaiting death, a figure bathed in heavenly light appeared and slayed the monsters. This person was Lucas's son. However, the number of monsters grew, and the world was once again plunged into sorrow. Meanwhile, Kang Di-an was pinning Han Tae-soo down and pummeling him. Countless blood gates had appeared, supplying him with mana. Not backing down, Han Tae-soo activated the powers he had absorbed from those he'd killed. Sure enough, just as Kang Di-an was about to attack again, a hand grabbed his leg. He froze, his eyes filled with confusion. When he turned to look, he saw a woman with a disfigured face, her hand covered in a layer of frost. In that moment, Di-an was all alone, just like when he had watched the lonely film about his life all by himself. But on the other side, countless hands were reaching out, trying to hold Kang Di-an back and stop him from destroying this world. Kang Di-an frowned, his gaze slowly turning vicious. At the same time, Han Tae-soo charged forward with millions of mana threads. In an instant, the threads wrapped around Kang Di-an's neck. Seeing this, a murderous intent rose in Tae-soo's eyes, and then, the mana threads began to dance in the air. However, Kang Di-an quickly blocked them and shattered them to pieces. Seizing the opportunity, he landed a punch right in Han Tae-soo's face. He violently slammed the man into the ground, and with a loud crash, a huge crater formed. Han Tae-soo fell powerlessly into the lake beneath the ice, but the mana threads continued to pour out of his body. As if sentient, they rushed towards Kang Di-an. Just then, someone caught Han Tae-soo's body. It was the hunters of the world. They had formed an alliance and were now ready to fight alongside him. But, doesn't Han Tae-soo know these people? Kang Di-an furrowed his brow slightly, and after a moment, he nodded in understanding. I get it now. At that moment, mana threads shot out continuously from Han Tae-soo's eyes, representing the people he had killed in the past. Kang Di-an realized this and scoffed contemptuously. So that's your power, is it? The moment he finished speaking, Han Tae-soo leaped up and charged at Kang Di-an again. This time, Kang Di-an simply let the attack hit him. With a thud, he fell to the ground, but then he suddenly burst out laughing. Kang Di-an sat up and, with a cold smirk, said, "Ha, so you were the one who killed him." The man he was referring to was a hunter he had once seen on TV. Kang Di-an narrowed his eyes at Han Tae-soo and asked coldly, You killed your own father?" This enraged Han Tae-soo, who roared in fury, "Shut up." But just as the word left his lips, his head was sliced clean off. In an instant, Han Tae-soo's vision went blurry. He suddenly remembered the past, when he went to get his abilities tested. The results showed he hadn't awakened any powers. Afraid of his father's anger, he had said timidly, "Dad, I'm sorry." But before Han Tae-soo could even finish his sentence, his father slapped him to the ground. His mother, sitting nearby, looked on in terror. And then, his father started hitting her, while all Han Tae-soo could do was hide. He didn't know what to do but cover his ears, trying to block out his mother's screams. But after this happened again and again, Han Tae-soo finally snapped. He grabbed a knife from the kitchen and charged. His father saw him coming. But before he could reach him, Han Tae-soo slipped. His small body fell onto his father, and the knife. It plunged right into the man's neck artery. Blood instantly began to pour out. Along with the blood, threads of mana seeped into Han Tae-soo's heartbroken body. And just like that, he inherited his father's ability. Seeing the horrific, bloody scene, his mother was completely terrified. She couldn't take it anymore and simply ran out of the house, leaving the heartbroken Han Tae-soo to collapse to the floor and weep. However, his older brother was still in the house. He walked over, examined their father's body, and then called out, "Han Tae-soo." Hearing his name, Han Tae-soo looked up. Just as he thought he was about to be comforted, his brother took an iron chain and fastened it around his neck, as if he were a pet. And so, his tragedy began. Memories of his life with Yeju, from childhood until they grew up, flashed through his mind like a movie. It all ended with him killing Lee Yeju with his own hands, turning him into the monster he was now, neither human nor ghost. Back in the present, at the Kyumkang Guild headquarters, Han Tae-soo was lying in a bed. Countless faces flashed through his mind. He couldn't make out their features, but their pain was crystal clear. Han Tae-soo carried the weight of countless lives, including the person who had endured tragedy with him since they were children. Tae-soo's head throbbed as if someone was crushing it, making it difficult to breathe. Accusing voices rang in his ears, jolting him from his nightmare. Lee Yu-min was there, right beside him. When she saw he was awake, she sat up. In a cold voice, Yu-min said, "It happened again, didn't it? You must be in agony. The mana, the memories. Just how many people are inside of you?" To that, even Han Tae-soo had no answer. He had countless mana threads within him from the innumerable people he had killed. Han Tae-soo bit his lip fiercely. "Can you seal their abilities?" Yu-min gently shook her head. "No, I can't do that. I'm just a healer." "Can't you do it yourself?" Hearing her words, Han Tae-soo covered his face in anguish and whispered desperately, "Damn it, no, that's impossible." The words barely out of his mouth, he slid off the bed and knelt on the floor, whispering, "I'm so tired. This can't go on any longer." But a single flicker of hope remained in Han Tae-soo's heart, much like the lone lamp illuminating his room. He pressed his lips together and murmured, "Yeju, I want to see you again." He had tried countless times to bring the dead back to life, but he had never once succeeded. He felt hopeless, with no idea what to do. But then, Han Tae-soo discovered a new method. He knew that time and space could be distorted by powerful gravity. That was it. Time. Han Tae-soo believed he could go back to the time before Lee Yeju's death. Using gravity as the foundation, he experimented by combining 14,589 different abilities. In the process, he destroyed several continents and nearly lost his life dozens of times. But in the end, Tae-soo succeeded in turning back time. However, there was a critical flaw. No matter what he did, Han Tae-soo couldn't return to a specific point in time. In other words, he couldn't get back to the time before Lee Yeju died. Han Tae-soo couldn't understand why. Was it because the timeline had been severed, or because he had closed the gate? But he refused to believe it was impossible. There had to be a way for him to go back. But he had tried every method he could possibly imagine, traveling back in time on countless occasions. And every single time, Han Tae-soo failed. He finally decided he'd had enough and gave up completely. He concluded that it was all Kang Di-an's fault. Han Tae-soo swore to himself that he would kill Kang Di-an before he himself died. No, he would never die. And so, Han Tae-soo turned back time over and over again, fighting Kang Di-an more times than he could count. But it was always the same. He would be killed, and then the loop would begin anew. He never returned to the moment he wanted, though. The only thing that remained constant was that he would always face Kang Di-an in the final battle, and always be killed by him. And so, this time, Han Tae-soo found himself back at the Kang Guild headquarters. It was the day the news was reporting on the Bloodgate incident, and just as before, he destroyed the TV. A triumphant smirk spread across Han Tae-soo's face. He shouted in excitement, "I did it! I'm back!" But just one day later, the city was drowned in a sea of blood, and Han Tae-soo was killed once more. This was now the 138th time he had died at the hands of Kang Di-an. During his very first regression, Han Tae-soo had met Lee Yu-min. She knew everything about him and had told him many secrets. That's why, in a later regression, Han Tae-soo pinned Lee Yu-min to a wall and demanded answers. Kang Di-an, hell, pile, everything. Lee Yu-min heard him and asked, confused, "I'm sorry, what?" Han Tae-soo said urgently, "I can turn back time. You're the one who told me everything. Who are you? Did you know this was going to happen?" But Lee Yu-min just looked uncomfortable and shook her head. Then, in the shadows, she whispered softly, "I will tell you the truth." Lee Yu-min explained that her ability was to read and heal the flow of life itself. As her power grew stronger, she started to perceive an even greater flow. It began with perceiving the currents of air and water, but it expanded until she could perceive the flow of the earth, the moon, and even the very pulses of the solar system. But it didn't stop there. Yu-min's power grew to the point where she could sense the very forces that create galaxies, and she could even perceive other dimensions. The final stage she reached allowed Lee Yu-min to witness the birth of a planet and its end. She meant that she had seen the future, a future where Kang Di-an emerges from the gate and destroys this world. No matter what, they were all going to die. Everything was meaningless. That's why Lee Yu-min just lived recklessly. At this point, Lee Yu-min paused for a moment, and it was a long time before she spoke again. "But I never saw anything like what's happening to you now in that vision." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo asked suspiciously, "Then how can I trust you?" Lee Yu-min replied nonchalantly, "Is there any reason not to? If I were lying, you would have already turned back time and tortured me." Biting his lip aggressively, Han Tae-soo angrily snapped, "Then shut up and tell me, how can I kill that bastard, Kang Di-an?" Lee Yu-min frowned slightly, remaining silent for a long moment before finally whispering, "That's impossible." Just like the countless times Han Tae-soo had been beheaded by Kang Di-an, he could only die resentfully, and then turn back time again. And so, he went through an endless loop, a loop of death with no end in sight. Kang Di-an possessed the power of hell. No matter how strong Han Tae-soo became, or how many times he turned back time, Kang Di-an was still unkillable. No matter how much mana Han Tae-soo used, the outcome was always the same. When the sky was covered in a blood-red color, he would be killed by Kang Di-an, and this time was the 138th time. Although Han Tae-soo had turned back time to torture Lee Yu-min, she wasn't lying. That meant it was truly impossible to kill Kang Di-an. But Han Tae-soo didn't care about that, still madly turning back time to the day the sky was shrouded in blood. 6 years ago, the furthest point he could return to was the moment he pushed Kang Di-an into the Bloodgate again. Amidst everyone's cheers, he had wondered if Kang Di-an would stop if he saved his mother. But no matter what Han Tae-soo did, an unawakened person could not be saved. Even Lee Yu-min's arrival was useless, and eventually, he came to a conclusion. There was only one solution to this mess, and that was Kang Di-an's death. During those 6 years of turning back time, Han Tae-soo killed all the awakened beings in the world and absorbed their mana. And when Kang Di-an appeared, he closed all the blood gates. This made Kang Di-an appear alone. After the gate opened, Han Tae-soo destroyed it immediately. But Kang Di-an was strong as hell. He kept regenerating and killed him every single time after that. Even though Han Tae-soo trapped Kang Di-an in a diamond and buried it deep underground, he just destroyed the diamond itself and killed him. Even when Han Tae-soo tried to destroy the Earth, he rushed over and cut through the entire planet himself before it could happen and killed him. Han Tae-soo even pushed Kang Di-an into a few black holes, but he escaped and eventually killed him. It was all because Han Tae-soo had killed Kang Di-an's mother and trapped him in the Bloodgate. As long as that reality existed, he would continue to die. After experiencing despair so many times, Han Tae-soo couldn't hold it in any longer and screamed in agony, "Stop this damn game, you son of a bitch!" But despite his cries, time just rewound again. And what he realized after turning back time thousands of times was that killing Kang Di-an was impossible. Just as Lee Yu-min had said, she had seen the future. The future where Kang Di-an emerges from the gate and destroys the world. Everything she said was true. Once this happened, Han Tae-soo lived through 6 years of despair. Kang Di-an still appeared and killed him again. Han Tae-soo turned back time because he didn't want to die. After repeating this countless times, Han Tae-soo suddenly realized something. It was related to the process of killing Kang Di-an. What Han Tae-soo realized was that he had always acted alone in his quest to kill Kang Di-an. That was the problem. He had never opened up about his feelings to anyone other than Lee Yeju. Thinking about this, Han Tae-soo suddenly hesitated. Would anything change if he stopped doing everything alone? With this doubt in mind, Han Tae-soo once again turned back time And this time, he changed. He didn't kill anyone. The powerful hunters of Korea were still alive. Instead, Han Tae-soo told everyone in the world the story of everything that had happened up to now. From killing Kang Di-an's mother to how he had traveled through time countless times, he didn't leave out a single detail. After he finished, Han Tae-soo asked for their help. At first, everyone was shocked by what he said, their faces filled with doubt. This time, Lee Yu-min was also by his side, quietly listening to what he had to say. Until only Han Tae-soo remained, he who had experienced time travel thousands of times, and he used that knowledge to convince everyone. The people Han Tae-soo had once sacrificed to become stronger weren't just nameless victims. They all had their own stories and had lived their lives alongside him. At the same time, Han Tae-soo began to converse with the mana of those people, who had become a part of him after he absorbed them, as if talking to himself. Han Tae-soo wondered how much time had truly passed and how many times he had rewound it. But Lee Ye-ju was now just a part of Han Tae-soo's memory. No matter how many times he went back, he could never meet her again. After Han Tae-soo finished conversing with every part of himself, he was able to look back and face the choices he had made. Han Tae-soo realized all the cruelty and horror he had caused. However, that's why he couldn't waste any more time. The blood gate had opened once again. He didn't want anyone to experience the pain of losing their loved ones ever again. The people who had fought alongside Han Tae-soo, the ones he killed after his regressions, not a single one. He didn't want them to go through the same thing. And more than that, Han Tae-soo wanted to apologize to Kang Di-an. But this wouldn't end until Kang Di-an drew his last breath, and once again, Han Tae-soo had to confront him. Only this time, he wasn't alone. He had many people by his side, forming a worldwide hunter alliance. But it was a huge miscalculation. After the battle, only Kang Di-an and Han Tae-soo were left standing. Han Tae-soo had done his best after studying all of Kang Di-an's attack patterns. By constantly fighting him through time travel, he had taught and guided all the hunters so they could grasp how to fight Kang Di-an. And that's how they all stood side by side. The battle continued for thousands of times, and it was all in vain. Everyone fell. Just as Lee Yu-min had said, Kang Di-an could not be killed. The more Han Tae-soo tried, the more desperate he became. Was the struggle against Kang Di-an truly meaningless? He could only apologize to everyone. Above all, Han Tae-soo owed Kang Di-an a sincere apology, but even so, he still couldn't change the outcome of being killed by Kang Di-an. But Han Tae-soo felt no pain, because someone had shielded him. It was the very mother who had called him a monster, the one who had abandoned him in fear all those years ago. But in this moment, she was standing in front of Tae-soo, taking the full force of Kang Di-an's claws. His voice trembled as he called out, "Mom." Hearing that single word, Diane's eyes narrowed instantly. He scoffed coldly. "So, this is your mother." Han Tae-soo's mother's face was etched with sorrow, tears streaming down her cheeks. But before she could utter a single word, Kang Di-an thrust his hand through her chest and then tore her face in two. The scene was sickeningly familiar, sending a shiver down Han Tae-soo's spine. He himself had done the exact same thing, and now, he was finally tasting the same pain that Kang Di-an had endured in the past. Han Tae-soo's mother was born from a political marriage between a congressman and a judge. From a young age, she was forced to be perfect. It was a brutal life, but she lived it without ever complaining. For Han Tae-soo's mother, the reality of life had become an absolute perfection. She had to be perfect in everything she did. However, the emotions she had unconsciously suppressed led her to make one imperfect choice. It was a matter of love. As a freshman in college, she had a relationship with a senior. This led to her pregnancy, after which that guy ignored her, and her own family abandoned her. That was the price she paid for making one imperfect decision. For her, Han Tae-soo's older brother had become something undeniable. From that moment on, his mother knew she had to maintain perfection, even when it came to love. But why now? Han Tae-soo had never once met her in any of his time travels until this very moment. Was it because he finally seemed perfect? Or was she here to achieve a perfect death? But the instant Kang Di-an killed his mother, he snapped. His eyes filled with utter disbelief. Han Tae-soo bit his lip fiercely, silent tears streaming down his grief-stricken face. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he clutched his head and screamed. At some point, as the pain completely consumed Tae-soo, he suddenly turned his head and broke into a smile even more hideous than a face full of tears. The mother who abandoned him as a child had now lost her life in this very place, on a day when the gloomy sky was shrouded in blood. At that moment, Han Tae-soo suddenly muttered, "So, this is what you felt, isn't it, Kang Di-an?" He then told Kang Di-an everything that had happened. Countless time travels, endless deaths, and his own realization. Han Tae-soo knelt at Kang Di-an's feet, his voice trembling as he mumbled, I won't even think about turning back time again. I'm sorry, Kang Di-an. I did such cruel things to you. I'm so sorry." But after hearing him out, Kang Di-an asked coldly, "Why did you do it?" Why did you do that to my mother? This was the question Kang Di-an had wanted to ask for so long. But now that he had asked it, the pain only grew sharper, and Han Tae-soo had no idea how to answer. After a long silence, under that gloomy sky, his desolate laughter suddenly echoed once more. Having experienced his own mother's death right before his eyes, Han Tae-soo finally understood that pain, and he realized just how much of a bastard he had been all this time. He looked up at Kang Di-an and whispered, "I don't know either." The moment the words left his lips, Han Tae-soo's head was severed from his neck. Kang Di-an had killed him once again. In this moment, Han Tae-soo no longer felt any resentment, only relief. It was finally, truly over. What a long life it had been. His miserable life had come to an end. Right now, Han Tae-soo actually felt lucky that Kang Di-an had killed him. But when he opened his eyes again, he was back on the day he pushed Kang Di-an into the blood gate for the second time. And so, Han Tae-soo had returned once more. He let out a sorrowful sigh. He figured he must have unconsciously turned back time before dying. So, Han Tae-soo decided to die again. He created a hard diamond blade and immediately cut off his own head. But still, Han Tae-soo returned to that same moment. He was going insane. He grabbed a weapon from someone nearby and ended his own life on the spot. But the loop just started over again. The cheers of the crowd were driving him mad. He didn't know what was happening, why he kept returning to this day, even after killing himself. So why did he keep coming back? Finally, he couldn't hold it in any longer and cursed, "Damn it!" And then he threw his head back and screamed at the sky. "What more do you want from me?" Han Tae-soo admitted he had only pretended to be enlightened before he died. He thought it would be nice to die with some dignity. That's why he did it. But so what? Han Tae-soo didn't want to live anymore. He wanted to die. As he said this, he covered his face in despair and began to sob. At that moment, a massive explosion erupted, filling the sky with smoke and fire. But then, Han Tae-soo returned again. The people around him were still surrounding him just like before. It drove him to scream in a frenzy. "Why do I keep coming back?" Just then, Yoo-min suddenly appeared and said, "Calm down." Seeing her, a spark of hope suddenly ignited within Han Tae-soo. He grabbed her leg, his voice trembling as he pleaded, "Lee Yoo-min, you have to know something, right? Tell me what's going on." But before he could finish, Lee Yoo-min spoke with a cold voice. "It's an endless time reversal." As that mana piled up on the fabric of time, Tae-soo's causality became distorted, and time itself closed in on itself. Now, whenever you die, you will return to this exact moment. And as long as you return here, in 6 years, you will be killed by Kang Di-an, no matter what you do. At this, Lee Yoo-min leaned in close to Han Tae-soo's face, enunciating every single word. "Do you understand? You will continue to die, endlessly, over and over again." Hearing this, Han Tae-soo's eyes widened in horror. He cried out in disbelief. "What? What are you talking about? That's impossible." He bit his lip fiercely, grinding his teeth as he demanded, "Who the hell are you?" Yoo-min just smirked and moved her thin lips. After hearing her whisper, the expression on Han Tae-soo's face turned even uglier. Finally, he couldn't help but break into a smile full of desolation. He accepted the truth that he would return to the past forever, while the earth continued to spin. And at that very moment, at the edge of the earth, a sudden flash of light appeared, and then, just as quickly, vanished. Like a life that had been lost forever, erased from this world. While Han Tae-soo was trapped in his loop, the outside world was still engulfed in a crimson hue. After striking down Han Tae-soo, a blood gate appeared behind Di-an. Soon after, a skeleton emerged from within. The beasts before it were instantly terrified. They quickly formed a line and knelt. Di-an was stunned by the sight. He just stood there, unsure of what to do. But soon after, the monsters in front of him vanished, and the surroundings were enveloped in a gruesome red glow. At the same time, a figure silently approached from behind Kang Di-an, as a woman's voice called out to him. Hearing the sound, Kang Di-an immediately turned his head to see Lee Yoo-min. She hugged him from behind, whispering softly, "You did well. Pael is the ruler of hell. For eons, he relentlessly flattened worlds. Pael lost his sense of self, along with any reason for his actions. All that remained was destruction and ruin. Suddenly, he felt a wave of loneliness wash over him. So he tried to create life, but failed every time. Then, in a new attempt, Pael tore out his own heart and created a daughter. You will live as his other self." At that moment, Kang Di-an seemed to realize something. Stammering, "You, are you?" Lee Yoo-min, still hugging him tightly from behind, calmly admitted, "Yes, that's me." As Kang Di-an could see, Lee Yoo-min was human. Living in hell was impossible for her, so she was abandoned just after she was born. Outside the gate, over 4 billion years ago, on the ravaged lands of Earth, Lee Yoo-min wanted to die. But because of Pael's heart, she couldn't, as long as she existed across different dimensions. Lee Yumin would be reborn even if she died. What was more despairing was that Lee Yumin couldn't meet Pael until this earth was destroyed once again. She lived for hundreds of millions of years alone, tormented by loneliness and hatred. No one would know or even understand what humanity meant to Lee Yumin. She had been alone for too long. And finally, Lee Yumin came into contact with a few people. And so, she began to love. She forgot her loneliness and lived happy days. But as time passed, the love of Lee Yumin's life left her behind. Then she fell in love again. This time, she even had children, then watched her children have children, and so on. Lee Yumin accepted goodbyes and met new people. Over the vast expanse of time, she had countless loves. But they all died, leaving only Lee Yumin behind. Loneliness enveloped her once again. Throughout her life, Lee Yumin had endured and overcome countless pains. But that was something she could never overcome. And only then did Lee Yumin understand her father. Pael had tried to escape it, even by gouging out his own heart. This loneliness was too unbearable. Lee Yumin truly could not accept it. That was the moment Pael's heart showed her the future. The only future where Lee Yumin could meet him again. That future involved provoking the wrath of a bloodgate, and naturally, it had to be through Kang Di-an. After hearing this, Kang Di-an was stunned and cried out in disbelief. "What?" Lee Yumin slowly explained. "The fact that you overcame monsterization and escaped from hell, went against the laws of the universe, and created a crack in space. I saw all possible futures of this world, and only you could do it." Kang Di-an grew more and more confused. "So you've been using me? Wait." He then asked if she was the one behind what happened to his parents. Lee Yumin nodded slightly and replied, "That's right." Upon receiving this confirmation, Kang Di-an instantly flew into a rage. He lunged forward to attack. But Lee Yumin calmly raised her hand, pointing a single finger at the center of Kang Di-an's forehead, which instantly caused his monstrous outer shell to shatter completely. After doing so, she spoke coldly. "The future I saw ends here." Han Tae-soo fell back weakly, but he didn't stop cursing. "Damn it, because of you." But before Kang Di-an could finish, Lee Yumin continued icily. "Because of you, I gave Han Tae-soo the most miserable death possible, the fate of being trapped in a loop, dying endlessly for you." Hearing this, Kang Di-an grew even more resentful and shouted in frustration, "Get the hell away from me." Lee Yumin sighed reluctantly. "You probably don't understand, but don't worry, everything will be over soon." Once she was in the same dimension as Pael, she would be able to die, and if Lee Yumin died there, Pael would also die. The day Lee Yumin understood his loneliness, she decided she would find Pael, burn the world to ash, and in death, take him with her. As she thought this, she tore out her own heart. Death could break the vicious cycle of loneliness. In an instant, fresh blood splattered everywhere. Kang Di-an stood not far away, a good amount of blood splashing onto his face. But Kang Di-an was no different. No matter how much you suffered, clinging to life for your mother's sake. That wasn't love, it was loneliness. Just like how you used to walk alone in the rain. That feeling was utter despair. That's right, love is a cruel deception, a fragile illusion to seal the cracks in the soul. It numbs the loneliness, but never erases it. It is a curse disguised as salvation. But now, it was time to end all the tragedies in Kang Di-an's life. At that moment, Kang Di-an's eyes suddenly widened in horror. The sight of Lee Yumin ripping out her own heart, coupled with Pael's screams, made him shudder uncontrollably. Before fading away, Lee Yumin couldn't help but ask, "Father, do you hate me?" Pael smiled and replied, "What are you talking about? You are my daughter and my other half. How could I ever hate you?" Hearing these words, Lee Yumin was completely content, closing her eyes to await death. However, as Kang Di-an watched them slowly disappear, he suddenly became furious. What the hell are those two doing? After using him to kill his mother and father, and even erasing his world, they get their own ending and die peacefully? Oh hell no. What was the reason they did all of that in the first place? Because they were lonely? Kang Di-an felt that was a bullshit reason. Pael had actually turned him back to normal when he had become a complete monster. With that kind of power, he could bring his mother back, right? At this thought, Kang Di-an reached out and grabbed Lee Yumin's heart. In that moment, he suddenly remembered the words Lucas left him before he vanished. "Please, don't lose faith until the very end." But like hell he would. Kang Di-an seized this opportunity to take that power for himself. They want to die in peace? He wouldn't allow it. He was definitely taking this heart. Immediately after, Kang Di-an put Lee Yumin's heart in his mouth and madly bit down, devouring it. He roared ferociously, "That power, give it to me." The three of them sank deep into the crimson void. Seeing this, Lee Yumin couldn't help but sigh. "Kang Di-an, you're just a normal human now. There's no way you can absorb Pael's power." Yet, the moment she finished speaking, Kang Di-an suddenly threw his head back and screamed at the sky. At the same time, a beam of light shot out from Earth. past the galaxy. In an instant, it was covered in threads of mana. Seeing this, Lee Yu-min trembled and muttered, "No, this can't be. Don't you realize it yet? There's no escape from loneliness without death. That includes you." Unfortunately, at that moment, Kang Di-an wasn't listening. He let out a cold snort. "No, I will see my mother again." And with that, he absorbed all of Pale's power. Countless threads of mana began to envelop Kang Di-an's body. Before she was consumed by the Crimson Sea, Lee Yu-min watched intently as he transformed. And at last, she realized this was exactly what she had foreseen in the future. In that very instant, Kang Di-an's transformation was complete, as blood-red veins spiderwebbed across his eyes. And then, an immense power erupted from him. It blanketed the entire sky over Korea, and soon after, it spread across the whole world. In that moment, flames ignited and blazed. With a single, deafening roar, the entire Earth was annihilated. But in the vast expanse of the galaxy, it was merely an insignificant spark. As the blast wave slowly expanded, the Earth completely vanished from the galaxy. However, in a dark void, a figure silently appeared, a lonely skeleton, adrift in the darkness. But at that moment, a flicker of light appeared in its eye sockets. And then, there was only blackness. The skeleton then realized it could move. It frantically looked down to see that it had arms and legs. It was completely bewildered, unable to remember what it had been trying to do. And even more than that, who was it? It just stood there, staring down at its own limbs. The silent darkness grew even more terrifying with this gaunt skeleton's presence. But soon after, threads of mana appeared from nowhere, wrapping around its body. And at last, it remembered, it was the ruler of hell. Pale had emerged from the blood gates. His power was fueled by the mana from these gates. Pale was a being capable of destroying entire worlds. But the blood gates closed, trapping him inside. And so, Pale's cycle began anew. For eons, he relentlessly laid waste to world after world. Pale had lost his sense of identity, along with any reason for his actions. All that remained was destruction and devastation. Suddenly, a wave of loneliness washed over him. Because of this, Pale tried to create life, but he failed time and time again. Then, in a new effort, he ripped out his own heart and created a daughter. She was to live as his alter ego. And so, Pale pushed his daughter out of the blood gate, leaving her to live in solitude for a vast period of time. After that, history repeated itself. The daughter tried to open the gates, creating false awakenings that allowed the weak, like Kang Di-an, to be tormented. Scumbags like Han Tae-soo rose to the top of the food chain, and tragedy followed tragedy, playing out like a film on an endless loop. Kang Di-an's mother was beaten into a vegetative state. Kang Di-an himself was thrown into the blood gate, where he endured unspeakable suffering. He became a monster, and while on his path of revenge, he met Lee Yu-min. She proposed that he work for her, and in exchange, she would provide treatment for his mother. Every single word she spoke that day had been planned by Lee Yu-min, a scheme to lure Kang Di-an into her trap, one step at a time. It was all to make him return to the blood gate, to allow Pale to find him within its vast expanse, and to orchestrate the fated encounter between Kang Di-an and Pale. And so that Pale could destroy this world, everything was a trap laid by a human, methodically pushing another person down a path of eternal damnation. Life is just that dark.